Chapter 3598. A faint light flashed through Shi Mu's eyes as the corner of her mouth rose. Someone invite the ancestor to Moon Extreme Hall. Of course, he knew that Luo Qingchen was already standing outside. After all, he was the one who told Wang Qiu to call her. Cough, cough. I don't think there's a need to call her. Before coming, she really didn't expect that the person Shi Mu wanted her to meet was Mu Ning-er. After all, in her opinion, Mu Ning-er should still be in Jian country and in deep trouble. It seemed that they had already found a way out for themselves. Moreover, their way out was Yuan country. Their wishful thinking wasn't bad, but unfortunately, the heavens didn't seem to like them. After going around in circles, they were still sent to her side. As soon as she finished speaking, she pushed open the door and walked in. In that instant, everyone's eyes fell on her. Mu Ning-er took a deep breath, but she didn't exhale. She stood there stiffly with wide eyes as she watched Luo Qingchen slowly walk in. She originally planned to say something at this moment, but now she couldn't say a single word. On the contrary, it was Mu Guang who spoke first. His mouth was agape, his eyes were wide open, and his voice was trembling. Long time no see. Luo Qingchen flicked her sleeves and walked towards the high seat with disdain in her eyes. Shi Mu seemed to have understood her tacitly and walked down from her high seat. Luo Qingchen sat on the high seat domineeringly and looked at her with raised brows. Why aren't you kneeling when you see this sovereign? No. Mu Ning-er almost instantly responded to Luo Qingchen's words. She shook her head frantically. You're not. Impossible. This was absolutely impossible. How could Luo Qingchen be the empress of Yuan country? She wasn't. She definitely wasn't. Why am I not the empress? In the next second, Luo Qingchen narrowed her cold eyes and a trace of killing intent flashed through her eyes. Do you think this is still Jian country? This commoner greets Your Highness Dizun. Mu Guang naturally came back to his senses first. After all, he had been an official for many years and had more or less seen some big scenes. In this situation, whether or not Luo Qingchen was the empress of Yuan country, they still had to kneel. Father, you can't. Mu Ning-er's eyes immediately. We're not going to kneel. Why should we? She is Luo Qingchen. She used to be a servant of our Mu family. How could she be the empress of the Moon Silver country? Father, wake up. Moo's eyes, moos, moos. Ning-er, stop fooling around. I'm not messing around. Mu Ning-er raised her hand and pointed at Luo Qingchen. It's impossible for me to kneel to her. Mu Ning-er. Luo Qingchen took out her most commonly used fan from her sleeve and waved it gently. This is my territory. You don't have a choice. Guards. In the next second, a group of palace guards rushed in and knelt down. Dizun, what are your orders? Since she doesn't want to kneel, then. Mu sneered. Force her to kneel. Yes. In an instant, the guards were already standing beside Mu Ning-er. They didn't have any protective feelings for the fairer sex and forced her to kneel. I won't kneel, even if I die dong. Mu Ning-er used all her strength, but couldn't break free. She could only kneel in front of Luo Qingchen. Chapter 3599. I don't believe it. After a while, she suddenly looked up, only to see a pair of red eyes staring back at her. You can't be. Unfortunately, I am. Luo Qingchen gently shrugged. Evil people will be punished by the heavens. You'll get retribution for what you've done. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. In the next second, she laughed crazily and looked up. Even if I'm punished by the heavens, it won't be your turn. I am the heavens. Luo Qingchen slowly got up and walked in front of her. She lifted her chin with her fan. What? You're not convinced? Bah. Mu Ning wanted to turn her head, but she was held down by the guards around her. She could only speak with difficulty. Luo Qingchen, I advise you to kill me as soon as possible. Otherwise, did I say I won't kill you? Luo Qingchen coldly looked at her, her eyes flashing with a cold light. How many people in your family came here? I won't let a single one of them go back alive. You. Mu Ning agitatedly twisted her body and stared at her with wide eyes. If you have something to say, just come at me. You bullied the weak and the old. What kind of empress are you? Weak and the old? Mu Ning coldly snorted and narrowed her eyes. When you made a move on my aunt and Hao Yin, did you ever think that they were weak and the old? It turns out that the ancient people also had double standards, only allowing soldiers to set fires, but not allowing the common people to light lamps. Mu Ning took a deep breath and clenched her fists. If you dare to touch my family, I, Mu Ning will turn into a ghost slap. A loud slap fell on Mu Ning face. Mu Ning faintly smiled. I'm not afraid of you. Why would I be afraid of you turning into a ghost? I'll give you a choice now. Kneel from here to the palace gates and kowtow 99 times. Then I'll let the rest of your Mu family be safe. Luo Qingchun gave a shrug. This is your only chance. Kowtow to you? Ha 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 ha. Mu Ning's voice became strange. She looked at her with a drop of red tear. You're dreaming. As soon as she finished speaking, a large amount of blood flowed out of her mouth. Ancestor, she bit off her tongue. Ning, don't leave, father. Father will kneel for you. Mu Guang knelt on the ground and grabbed Luo Qingchun's skirt. Dizun, please save my daughter. She lost her mind for a moment. All right. Luo Qingchun sneered. Let's call the imperial physician to save her. As for the rest of the Mu family, except for the children under 10 years old and the elderly over 60 years old, lock them all up in prison. Then the child and the elderly, let him go. Shimu looked at her. Although her expression was as cold as usual, for some reason, when she looked at her, she would feel a touch of warmth in her eyes, as if she returned to the way he looked at her 1,000 years ago. After everyone left, Shimu leaned against a pillar and looked at her with her hands behind her back. Why didn't you kill her? Don't you think that saving her would make her suffer? Luo Qingchun sat back down and sipped her tea. She doesn't have a chance anymore. Or maybe it's just despair for her. Do you think I'm cruel? No. Shimu's lips curved into a gentle smile as she looked at her. I think you're very cute. You've always been cute. Always. Chapter 3600. Luo Qingchun narrowed her eyes and looked at Shimu's face. She couldn't help but fall into her memories. Only when Shimu called her name 3 times did she come back to her senses. What did you say? Shimu looked at her panicked face and walked forward. He rubbed her head and said, I said it's late. You should go to sleep. Luo Qingchun's brows moved slightly as she looked at him and said, Right. Let's go to Yuqing Mountain the day after tomorrow. Do we have to go? He narrowed his eyes as a complicated look flashed through his eyes. For a divinator, he knew who Bai Mo was, and he knew that she might have the ability to save him. But after 1,000 years of reincarnation, he had struggled to stand here with his original memories because he didn't want to forget what had happened 1,000 years ago. He wanted to remember it forever. But even if Bai Mo wanted to save him, he would have to pay a corresponding price. That was a price he didn't want to pay. You have to go. Luo Qingchun looked at his face seriously. This matter concerns the people of 2 countries. I can't get away with it, so you won't be able to. After a long time, he seemed to think for a bit before revealing a helpless smile. All right, we'll go if you say so. When they left Yuji Hall, Luo Qingchun looked inside for a long time. Why? Why did Shimu look exactly like Feng Wuji? If he really was Feng Wuji, didn't that mean she finally had a chance to make it up to him in another way? After all, 1,000 years ago, he had used up half of his cultivation for her. 2 days later, Luo Qingchun brought Shimu to Yuqing Mountain. That place was still clear in her memories. But many years had passed in the memories of the previous host. She didn't know if Bai Mo was still living there. She didn't even know if she was still alive. Have you been to Yuqing Mountain before? I have. Luo Qingchun smiled, but it wasn't a good memory. Shimu said with a smile, Then you should know that Bai Mo is not a kind person. Luo Qingchun nodded. It's the lotus. Don't worry. Luo Qingchun thought for a bit. I feel that with my body's constitution, I should be able to eat this flower. Shimu was speechless. He didn't know why Luo Qingchun's words, but it was clear that he wouldn't let her eat the forget sorrow's flower. After 2 days of the Yuqing Mountain,
They finally Yuqing Mountain come to Yuqing Mountain. You use was you moot. Titi say, to her, to say, to teat. Long time no see. Luo Qingshun was very indifferent. She went straight to the point. Since I've come to disturb you, I have something I need Sir Bai Mo's help with. You want me to save this youth? Bai Mo looked at her and said, I think he knows his fate better than I do. So you can't save him? Luo Qingshun was very direct, not wasting any time. If she could save him, then she could save him. She would save him no matter what. No. Bai Mo looked at her and said, but the rules are the same. Someone has to eat the lotus before I can save him. I can, you can't. Bai Mo shook her head. Her lips curled into a faint smile. Only one person can. Chapter 36:01. Ooh. Luo Qingshun was very confused. If Bai Mo could say it like this, it meant that the person who needed to eat the lotus flower was not Shimu. Then who could it be? Only the two of them should have arrived at Yueqing Mountain today. There is someone who arrived half a day earlier than you. Bai Mo looked at the woman in pink clothes and said, go invite him over. Yes, no need. But in the next second, an incomparably familiar voice entered her ears with a hint of pride. I'm already here. Luo Qingshun clearly felt her heart skip a beat, and she suddenly became nervous. The moment she turned around, she saw that familiar voice. Jinyuheng? Luo Qingshun was shocked, and her eyes unconsciously widened. Why are you here? Why can't I be here? He slowly came forward and pulled her hand to his side. He looked at Shimu with hostility. If I didn't come, my crown prince consort wouldn't be mine. That's not it. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips. This matter is rather complicated, but why are you... After Lily came back, he said some random things. I roughly guessed it. Jian Yuheng's ink-like eyes sparkled as he looked at her and said, so your highness the crown prince consort plans to forget me without my consent? The next second, she revealed a helpless smile. I won't forget you, but you want to eat the lotus flower for her, right? Jian Yuheng looked at her with a proud expression. Don't be too obvious with your jealous tone. Cough, cough. Luo Qingshun cleared her throat and said, don't worry, I won't forget you. I'm more certain than you that you won't forget someone. Jian Yuheng looked in Shimu's direction with a frivolous expression. Are you right? Shimu looked at him. In just a few seconds, her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. After a while, she said, you're still the same as before. You haven't changed. In the past, he is a heaven's fate master. Luo Qingshun knit her brows. He can divine past and present lives. Jian Yuheng narrowed his eyes and said, so you mean you knew me before? That's not important. Shimu looked at Bai Mo and said, since I can't eat the serene flower to save my own life, let's forget about this matter. 1,000 years ago, he had given birth to him. 1,000 years later, he couldn't know him anything. Instantly, Bai Mo glanced at the lady in pink beside her. The lady took out an exquisite box and looked at everyone. This is the sorrowless flower. If one of you eats the sorrowless flower, Lord Bai Mo will agree to save young Master Shimu. So you're saying that I could do it too? Originally, I couldn't. Bai Mo chuckled. But I suddenly feel that it's better to let nature take its course. Are you really confident that you won't forget the most important person in your life? Of course. Luo Qingshun gave a slight nod. She reached out with a confident smile to take the box of the sorrowless flower. But Jian Yuheng was faster than her. He took the box and swallowed the sorrowless flower inside. You, Jian Yuheng. Shimu and Luo Qingshun revealed looks of disbelief at the same time as they looked at Jian Yuheng with wide eyes. Quickly spit it out for me. When Luo Qingshun wanted to reach out to take the sorrowless flower out of Jian Yuheng's mouth, Jian Yuheng raised his right hand and grabbed her wrist with one hand while holding her waist with the other. In front of everyone, he leaned over and without any hesitation, he kissed her. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 100%. Baidu immediately read the latest chapter of Transmigrating Female Lead, Male God, teasing the Endless Claw bookstore for free. Chapter 36:02. If it wasn't for this prompt, Luo Qingshun would have forgotten that her mission hadn't been completed yet. Sometimes, the things that happened between people would be completely forgotten in just a short second. But in that moment, there was only one thought that appeared in Jian Yuheng's mind. Kiss her, kiss her, kiss her. Although he didn't know why he had this kind of thought, he wanted to do it in front of Shimu. As a man, he clearly knew that the way he looked at her wasn't normal. Even if he tried his best to control the emotions in his eyes, he couldn't completely hide it. It wasn't love at first sight. Rather, it was like they had known each other for a long time. He really didn't like this kind of gaze. Jian Yuheng, after eating the lotus, he felt that his head was very, very heavy. He wanted to tightly hug her and kiss her, but he didn't have any strength. It was like he could hear her anxious calls, and then he fell into a warm embrace. 3 days later, Jian Yuheng had been unconscious for 3 days. Luo Qingshun had been guarding the bed the entire time, afraid that something would happen. Actually, she was most afraid of the system, afraid that it would suddenly say, "Ding, affection has decreased by 100%. But it was a good thing that the system was tactful and didn't appear when she was most worried. To be honest, she had never wanted to see the system more than now, including hearing its voice. Since Jian Yuheng ate the lotus, Mo agreed to help Shimu, but because Shimu's fate was rather complicated, they had to go into closed-door cultivation for a few days. "Miss, go and rest. We'll help you take care of this young master." Yu Qingshan's maid softly patted her shoulder. She was a bit surprised before rubbing her eyes and nodding. "All right, I'll go lie down for a bit." All right. She had to have a good body to take care of Jian Yuheng. If she collapsed, the situation would become even worse. However, she did not expect that Jian Yuheng would disappear after she rested for less than 2 hours. At this time, Mo and Shimu had just come out of closed-door cultivation. "How are you taking care of young Master Jian?" Mo's eyes flashed with anger as she lectured the maidservants. "My lady, please calm down." The young maid knelt down and said, "I saw that young Master Jian was sleeping soundly. I wanted to pour a cup of water, but forget it. Let's split up and search." Luo Qingshun frowned. Although she was a little worried, she wasn't very nervous. The system didn't give her a notification. Did that mean, "Don't worry, not just anyone can come up Yueqing Mountain"? Shimu comforted from the side. "He won't go far." "Yeah, Shimu saw her worried expression and raised her hand to pat her head. "Don't worry. It's mainly because he doesn't have any memories of you. I just did a divination for him. He didn't." "Of course I'm fine." A familiar voice slowly sounded. Luo Qingshun and Shimu looked over at the same time. Jian Yuheng was slowly walking towards them. The three looked at each other. Jian Yuheng grabbed Shimu's wrist and moved his hand away from her head. "But please don't overstep your boundaries with my crown princess." At the same time, Mo also walked over and looked at Jian Yuheng in disbelief. "We didn't forget." Chapter 36:03. Her expression was a little agitated, her whole body was trembling, and her fingertips were shaking uncontrollably. "Girl? Shong? Net? W." This was the first time she had lost her composure in all these years. "I probably forgot for a few seconds." Jian Yuheng raised his eyebrows slightly and pulled Luo Qingshun to his side, "But I remembered it very quickly. I'm afraid the effect of Mo Darren's medicine needs to be improved." "You." Luo Qingshun's eyes widened as she looked at Jian Yuheng in surprise. Although she didn't receive the system's message, she knew that Jian Yuheng didn't forget her. But when the truth was placed in front of her, she still felt surprised and inconceivable. "What? Are you surprised or frightened?" His tone was gentle as he looked at her attentively. "Of course it's a surprise." Luo Qingshun happily took his wrist. Her eyes were a bit red as she sniffed. "It's a good thing you didn't forget me. Otherwise, I would probably fall in love with you at first sight again." Jian Yuheng looked at her deeply. "But the heavens didn't seem to give me such a chance. I won't forget you, because I won't lose to such a medicine." Their memories were not only sealed in his mind, but also sealed in his heart, sealed in every drop of blood in his body. So he couldn't forget, so he would never forget. Ha, ha. After a while, Mo laughed foolishly,
So there really is someone in this world who ate my serenity flower and won't forget the person they love the most. So, you really ate it back then. By Mo Darren. Luo Qingshan frowned slightly as a trace of doubt flashed through her eyes. Nothing. At this time, Bai Mo's eyes were filled with tears. She seemed to be crying and laughing, but Luo Qingshan could see it. At this moment, she was redeeming herself. So you didn't lie to me, you really ate it for me. At dusk, Bai Mo talked to herself again and again in the forest, crying and laughing. Such a strong woman. Perhaps she also had an earth-shattering love story. Unfortunately, Bai Mo wouldn't tell them. She would never. Jian Yuheng also did not intend to inherit the throne. After choosing a candidate for King Jian, he wanted to accompany Luo Qingshan to be a carefree couple. After all, he didn't want to use the lives of Jian country and Yuan country as a wager. It was meaningless. He didn't love the throne, he only loved his crown princess. After Shimu's fate was unlocked, he returned to Yuan Kingdom. He seemed very carefree when he left, but he would always stop after taking a few steps. Jian Yuhan glanced at Luo Qingshan, who was standing beside her. I'll give you a quarter of an hour to say goodbye politely. Although he was unwilling, he knew that the young man called Shimu had paid a huge price to protect their Yuan Kingdom. He knew he did it for her. No need. Luo Qingshan clenched the note in her hand, a thin mist flashing in her eyes. Jian Yuheng looked at her eyebrows and touched her head. It seems that you have already said goodbye. No. Luo Qingshan gently shook her head and nodded. He probably didn't have the courage to say goodbye to me, but he said he wished us well. It's useless if he doesn't wish us well. Jian Yuheng held her hand and stood with her in the snow, looking at Shimu's back. Because I will never let go of your hand. If she knew you in your previous life, then she would be the one who saved you. If you had a past life in her past life, then we must have known each other. Wow. Luo Qingshan chuckled. Your Highness is finally smart for once. We naturally knew each other. Really? Really? Luo Qingshan watched Shimu's back disappear in the snow and turned her eyes. Let's go back. Your Highness. Okay. The snow fell gently, a dream of 1,000 years. The note in her hand contained his 1,000 years of waiting and obsession. You turn your eyes, I close my eyes, and when I wake up, it's already past 10,000 autumns. Qingshan, what I regret the most is that I didn't disperse the other half of my cultivation and perish together with Yijihan. Feng Wuji End. Chapter 3604. I am Shimu. I am also Feng Wuji. Everyone who passed the Bridge of Helplessness could choose not to drink Granny Meng's soup. But the price they had to pay was much more terrifying. It was an indefinite wait, waiting for a miracle to happen. This wait lasted for several thousand years. The people of the underworld often asked me why I was waiting. Even the judge told me time and time again that my fate would never cross with hers. When I asked the reason, he said that there was an even stronger person guarding her. He waited for many years and experienced much more torment than me. At that time, I smiled faintly. Did they think I wasn't willing? If waiting could give me something, then I was willing to wait for an eternity just for a result. But for someone like me, even if I waited for an eternity, there wouldn't be a result. She walked forward with all her might just to find that person. Some people who had already reincarnated passed by the Bridge of Helplessness and would always greet me. Some of them even tried their best to persuade me to give up. It didn't matter if I saw her or not. Was it that important? That's right. I would often ask myself, was it that important? But the voice in my heart would always remind me, was it that important? All I thought of, all I longed for was to see her again. As long as this thought remained, nothing else mattered. My days in the underworld were difficult. I wasn't a lonely soul. I needed to reincarnate. But if I had to stay in the underworld, I would have to go through a long period of training and become a small official. I had an unruly nature and couldn't become a high official. After training, I became Granny Meng's disciple. There was no reason. It was just because I liked standing by the Bridge of Helplessness and watching people come and go. I even looked forward to seeing her pass by the Bridge of Helplessness one day. I waited in this kind of hope, looking forward to it, but she never appeared. Granny Meng told me that her fate was godhood. Her name first appeared in the underworld, but it would never appear in the underworld. In other words, she would never appear by the bridge of helplessness. I would always see people who looked similar to her, but they always seemed to lack a bit of intelligence. After several thousand years, I didn't know if it was because the heavens cared for me or because the king of hell pitied me, but I finally waited for a world where I could meet her again. However, this forced encounter caused the entire storyline to deviate somewhat, or it could be said that we've only met a few times. But it's enough for me. Hee hee. So what if it's not enough? I can't change anything. Actually, one shouldn't be too greedy. As long as I could see her again, as long as I knew that she was doing well, I would be satisfied. The only thing I could do for her in the world that existed with me was to protect the things that she wanted to protect and wait for her arrival. When we met again, I pretended to be calm, but the hands in my sleeves were trembling uncontrollably. She hadn't changed. It hadn't changed at all. Whether it was her eyes, her tone of voice, or the curve of her lips when she smiled, they were all exactly the same as they were 1,000 years ago. At that moment, I knew that all the waiting was worth it. He had endured thousands of years of suffering by the bridge of helplessness, all for the sake of meeting her. At that time, I decided to wait until this world came to an end. I would return to the bridge of helplessness and wait for another 1,000 years. Then he could see her again. Chapter 36:05. I'm not afraid of forgetting you, because I will still fall in love with you. Jian Yuheng, I never thought about inheriting father's throne, just like I never thought I would meet you. Actually, they don't know that I don't even care about life and death. So what if second brother kills me? It's just a once-in-a-lifetime experience. There's nothing worth remembering, and there's no reason for me to stay. Because there's nothing in my heart, I don't fear death. But after meeting you, I know that I want to live. The time that felt long suddenly became short. So short that I want to do something I want to do as soon as possible. For example, make her my crown princess. I know that Lord Father is quite dissatisfied with my situation. To him, my crown princess should be a person of noble status and an especially perfect person. But after being alone for so many years, Father's requirements for my crown princess have become lower and lower. In the next few years, he even felt that it was fine as long as it was a woman. Because of this, I felt that her appearance was perfect, as if she appeared to become my crown princess. Thinking like this, I'm very narcissistic, but there are more people who like her than I imagined. One of them is Song Xiaoling, who grew up with her. I investigated the matter between her and Song Xiaoling very thoroughly. It's not that I don't believe in her feelings for me, but I want to know how uncomfortable I can feel. Is this self-abuse? Perhaps so. Song Xiaoling is a person. His shrewdness is deeper than I imagined. He has a lot of things he wants to do, but he can't have it both ways. He can love Ning. He can also love her. But in my eyes, this kind of man doesn't even have the right to love her. He can't be considered a competitor. It's a pity that Mu is different. When Lily came back and told me about what happened between her and Mu, I felt very uneasy. According to her personality, she will definitely eat the forget sorrow flower. And how could I take this risk? What if she doesn't remember me? What if the first person she sees is Mu? The way the man called Mu looked at her was different. It was as if they had met a long time ago, as if he had more of her past than she did. Thus, the moment I saw Mu, I rejoiced that I had come and eaten the sorrowful flower that could make me forget a person before her. Actually, I wasn't afraid at all. To me, so what if I forgot? If I could fall in love with her once, I could fall in love with her twice. I knew very well that even if I couldn't remember anything, I would still fall in love with her again. This might be the difference between me and Song Xiaoling, because I know that he forgot about her, because he ate the forget sorrows flower. But as it turned out, this so-called forget sorrow flower wasn't something I had to worry about. Because some things, some people, or even just a face, as long as it was deeply engraved in one's heart, it would be unforgettable. I've already prepared for the worst. It's just starting over. However, the truth was that it was extremely difficult to forget her. Even my most confident Serena flower didn't have any effect on me. I can't forget it. I remember it deeply. I will never forget it. Ding, congratulations on bringing a soul fragment into the lead god space. 56 out of 100. Chapter 3606. Later story. Mu Ning died in Yuan Kingdom's prison, and she died miserably. Even at the moment of her death, she didn't close her eyes because the hatred in her heart would never be erased. It was said that Mu Ning had originally thought of an excuse to escape. But when Mu went to the prison, Mu Ning went crazy. She spent every day in fear, and in the end, she tortured herself to death. Mu Guang also couldn't take the blow because of such ups and downs, and followed her. Mu wanted to get rid of all future troubles and kill everyone in the Mu family. But in the end, she remembered her request. Sometimes, she felt that she was really different. On the surface, she was indifferent and never showed mercy to her enemies. But she never hurt her enemies' families. It was like this 1,000 years ago, and it was still like this 1,000 years later. On the other hand, Jin Yuheng brought her back to Jian country and wanted to recommend someone qualified for the throne. In fact, even if there was no Yuan kingdom, he also didn't want to become Jian country's king. The reason was simple. There were too many shackles in the palace, and he wanted to spend his days with her. Although Jian country's king was very angry, he couldn't do anything after hearing the reason. After all, he couldn't joke about the lives of Jian country's people. As for Song Shaoling, he disappeared after that banquet. Mu Ning wanted him to go with her, but he left a letter and left. He didn't know why he didn't go with Mu Ning. After all, he knew that if he stayed in Jian country, he wouldn't be able to fulfill any of his ambitions. Jin Yuheng wouldn't give him any chance, but he just wanted to stay here. A few years later, he fell seriously ill, and his memory became very blurry. But some scenes that didn't seem to have appeared in his life flashed through his mind, but they were incomparably real. In those scenes, there was always a person. That person seemed to be his page boy, the person he loved. The last one to talk about was by Mo. When Luo Qingxun and Jin Yuheng were traveling around the countries, they happened to pass by Yueqing Mountain and wanted to go up to see Bai Mo. After all, Bai Mo had saved them twice, but after going up the mountain, they found out that Bai Mo was already dead. He slit his throat with a long sword and killed himself. Luo Qingxun stood in front of her tombstone. When she closed her eyes, she seemed to feel her sadness and regret. Although he didn't know what kind of story she had gone through, but it must have been a sad and beautiful story. Welcome back to the Chaos Space. The following is a summary of the data for this mission. Please read it carefully. Name, Luo Qingxun Space. His Highness the Crown Prince. If I forget you, it's my loss. Mission completion rate, 100% EXP. 6,000/10,000 currently. He had 5 items in his spatial storage. Exquisite Ring, 9-section Moon Whip, Phoenix Dance Sword, and Universal Medicine Box. Permanent ability. Space-Time Freeze LV6 permanent ability. Teleportation LVL 5 permanent ability. Telekinesis LVL 2 exchange points. For 500 after obtaining the special ability bestowed by the Lord God, it could be used in any plane. Host's 54th mission panel is as follows. Appearance. 99 out of 100 stamina. 95 out of 100 intelligence. 95 out of 100 figure. 90 out of 100 in the next second. The image in the bronze mirror changed. Mission level. SS experience gained. 500 female lead. Luo Qingxun male lead. Shuangzi supporting female lead. Bai Shaoqing supporting male lead. Limo mission content. 1. Help Shuangzi become the successor of the Shuang clan. 2. Don't be soft-hearted when dealing with bad people. Take revenge if you have grievances in your previous life. The memory has been released. Please check it. Chapter 3607. The host story was complicated and involved a long time. Luo Qingxun spent some time sorting it out. Her ending was short and sad. She used all her strength to love someone, but when she looked back, unrequited love had always been a person's turmoil and chaos. The story could be traced back to 1,000 years ago. The host came from Dongling village in the southernmost part of Xia Kingdom. Why was it said be steep? Because in order to avoid attacks from bandits and unknown outsiders, The mountains of Tiger Head Mountain were connected by bridges. If someone who wasn't familiar with the terrain went up the mountain, it was very easy to encounter danger. And as long as the villagers made use of the terrain, they could wipe out the bandits. But what the villagers didn't know was that the reason the villagers of Tiger Head Mountain were blessed for generations was because there was a god living here. In this world, there was only one god. The original owner died twice in this world 1,000 years ago. This was also the reason why the story was so long. The host was born in a poor family in her first life. Generally speaking, there were no poor people in Tiger Head Mountain. After all, every family was self-sufficient and sold their things in town. Because Tiger Head Mountain was blessed with good fortune, every family had a good harvest every year. But that didn't include the host family. For some reason, no matter what the host family planted, they rarely had a good harvest. But the big maple tree that grew next to the farm didn't need to be taken care of. It could grow luxuriantly. The villagers thought it was strange, but couldn't explain why. They could only send the host family when they had a good harvest. But the things they sent were only enough for themselves. The family was still poor. If it was just poverty, it wouldn't affect their lives. After all, it was a small village. They didn't have many requirements as long as they had enough to eat. But after the host was born, she was weak and sickly. Her parents used the family savings to treat the host's illness, but her health still deteriorated day by day. When she was 7 years old, the host coughed up blood and fainted. Coincidentally, the last disciple of Medicine King Valley's miracle doctor, Hoopa, happened to pass by and saved her life. The husband and wife discussed and decided to send the host to Medicine King Valley and let miracle doctor Hoopa save her. The original owner of the body was very smart, and as soon as he entered the Valley of the Medicine Masters, he was liked by the Valley Lord of Amber Valley. He quickly learned the art of medicine, and his health gradually improved. There were many skilled doctors in Medicine King Valley, and the young man who had brought her back from Tiger Head Mountain that day was also very skilled. However, the original owner of the body was exceptionally talented in medicine. She had not been in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for long, but her medical skills had already surpassed everyone else. However, he couldn't compare to Li Mo. Li Mo was the son of Amber, the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. He had been highly talented since he was a child, and he was cold and self-disciplined. The reason why he was said to be cold was because he was the same to everyone in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Whether it was the junior sister who asked about medical skills, or the junior brother who asked for guidance on swordsmanship, he would always help, but he never had too much affection for anyone. The original owner looked at her with admiration. Over time, this admiration became a kind of silent liking. After that, things got out of hand. She knew that Li Mo didn't like her because every time she finished asking for medical advice, Li Mo never stayed for long. She once asked him, "Senior brother, are you this cold and indifferent to everyone? What else should I do?" He naturally saw through her feelings. A doctor shouldn't be too sentimental. Then you'll always be like this to others. They're all the same. Chapter 3608. At that time, although the original owner was disappointed, at least Li Mo treated everyone the same. As a result, she had an excuse to console herself. But the truth was that the girl who could move his heart did not appear. The moment Bai Shaoqing appeared, the original owner knew that she was different in Li Mo's eyes. Because no matter what, Li Mo's gaze was always looking forward, as if there was no one else around. But the moment Bai Shaoqing appeared, his gaze fell on her and did not move away for a long time. Love at first sight, that was it. Bai Shaoqing was the princess of the Dixia kingdom. She had asthma, and many doctors could not treat it. But because of his careful care, she didn't suffer any hardship. Recently, the Dixia palace was not peaceful. Assassins had appeared time and time again to take her life. To be safe, Bai Ji sent Bai Shaoqing to the Valley of the Medicine Masters before the culprit was found. On one hand, it could treat her asthma better. On the other hand, the Valley of the Medicine Masters could protect her during this critical period. Bai Shaoqing was extremely beautiful, so beautiful that even women would take a few more glances at her. The original owner was envious. But what she envied the most was not her face, but how Li Mo treated her differently. "Since the princess is here, I should personally teach her medical and swordsmanship. But I have to go into seclusion for a few days. I'm afraid I'll have to hand the princess over to someone else. Hoopa glanced at his third disciple and said, "How about I hand you over to Yuang?" Of course, little did she know that before Bai Shaoqing could finish his sentence, Li Mo had already spoken up. Li Mo requests to protect the princess. Everyone looked at Li Mo in disbelief, because Li Mo had never taken the initiative to ask anyone to come with him. What kind of feeling was that? The person she admired and missed the most had fallen in love with someone else at first sight, and she was powerless to do anything about it. Bai Shaoqing smiled lightly at him. That devastatingly beautiful face was indescribably beautiful when he smiled like a blooming flower. Hoopa agreed to let Li Mo protect Bai Shaoqing. He taught her medical and swordsmanship and taught her everything. She called him master, and he called her Qing. Every time Bai Shaoqing called out those two words in a doting voice, the original owner of the body would close her eyes and imagine how good it would be if he was calling her. She could live in her own world and feel him calling her Qing. Qing, could also be Qing. It was Bai Shaoqing's first time in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Although he found it interesting a few days ago, he felt bored and wanted to leave the mountain. At this moment, Hoopa was in seclusion. Li Mo couldn't ask for permission, but he couldn't refuse Bai Shaoqing's request. He thought about it for a while and decided to take her down the mountain. But at that time, the assassin had not been caught, and they were waiting at the foot of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Waiting for an opportunity to strike, after a meticulous plan, they poisoned Bai Shaoqing with the ice goo. This poison was a top-grade poison concocted by the sect leader of the 10,000 Poisons sect, Old Lady Meng Ming. It was also one of the 10,000 Poisons sect's greatest treasures. Old Lady Feng Ming did not refine an antidote when she refined the poison, so even if Li Mo brought Bai Shaoqing back to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, there was nothing Hoopa could do. Thinking about it, the 10,000 Poisons sect concocted poisons to kill people. Why would they concoct an antidote to save someone? Li Mo was at his wit's end, so he decided to use the Valley of the Medicine Master's secret technique, blood exchange. This was a forbidden secret technique in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. When both parties exchanged blood, the party who provided the blood would be in incomparable pain. Once it succeeded, Li Mo would be drained of all his strength by the secret technique. He would instantly age and die. Chapter 3609. Li Mo didn't hesitate in the slightest when it came to choosing between him and Bai Shaoqing. He didn't tell Hoopa and used the blood exchange technique on his own. After successfully saving Bai Shaoqing, he left Medicine King Valley alone. When the original owner found out about this, she immediately went to Medicine King Valley's library to find a way to cure the blood exchange technique. The book said, "The blood exchange technique, as its name suggests, transfers the poison in another person's body to yourself." The original owner wanted to use the blood exchange technique on Li Mo. That way, he would at least be able to live. All she wanted in her life was for him to live peacefully and happily. In the end, she couldn't have him, so it was good that he could be happy. However, this technique could only be used once. Once the blood exchange technique was used, the person who used it couldn't use it again. The original owner had no choice but to leave Medicine King Valley and go to 10,000 Poisons sect under another identity. She once asked Hoopa how long Li Mo could live after using the blood exchange technique. Hoopa told her that a normal person would die of old age immediately, but Li Mo grew up eating hundreds of herbs and had an excellent physique, so he should slowly age. How long will that be? About a year. When the original owner found out the time, she didn't go looking for Li Mo. She naturally wanted to stay by his side, but she knew that the most important thing now was to save his life. Whoever started the trouble should end it. Since the ice goo poison was developed by Hongming from 10,000 Poisons sect, she had to go to 10,000 Poisons sect if she wanted to develop an antidote. The original owner hid it very well and didn't let anyone find out after entering 10,000 Poisons sect. She was very talented in medicine, so it didn't take her long to develop an antidote. However, this antidote had never been used on a human before, so she couldn't confirm its effects. After all, the so-called antidote used many poisons. If there was just a little more or a little less, it could have taken Li Mo's life. The original owner didn't have a chance to test it, so she could only poison herself with the ice goo. However, the ice goo had always been by Hengming's side, so there weren't many chances. Although she found the right time, she was still discovered by Hengming. When Hengming asked her why, the original owner refused to tell her. In order to find out the truth, Hengming placed the ice goo into the original owner's body. You could try if you want, but you have to pay a price for deceiving me. Originally, people who were poisoned by the ice goo would feel cold all over their bodies, unable to sleep at night, and unable to sleep peacefully in their rooms. The original owner's body was directly inhabited by the ice goo. If she hadn't soaked in medicinal wine every day after coming to Medicine King Valley, she wouldn't have been able to withstand the corrosion of the ice goo. That kind of pain was tens of thousands of times more painful than being poisoned by the ice goo. It was as if with every step he took, his entire body would be unable to move, as if he was standing on top of ice. However, the original owner felt that as long as she could save Li Mo, everything would be worth it. After many inquiries, she found out that Li Mo lived in a thatched cottage 5 kilometers away from the capital city of the Grand Xia Kingdom. At this time, he was already in his twilight years and had completely lost his handsome face. However, his gaze was still cold, but when he looked at her, there was a hint of gentleness in his eyes. "Junior sister, you shouldn't have come. I'm here to save you." His days in the Valley of the Medicine Masters were boring. He knew her feelings for him, so he could stay away from her. But sometimes, her innocent smile could cause a ripple in his quiet heart. Because he knew that he didn't love her, he never said anything. He kept his distance and treated her coldly. But when he was about to die, his gaze towards this junior sister of his couldn't help but become gentle. Chapter 36:10. The original owner saved Li Mo, but she couldn't completely remove the ice goo poison from his body. Girl, Shang, Net, W. Under her constant research, she knew that to remove the ice goo poison, she had to use her internal energy to let the ice goo in her body consume her blood. Then, she could use her blood as a catalyst for Li Mo to consume. Of course, she didn't tell him this. If she wanted to completely remove the ice goo poison from his body, she had to force it out and kill it. But if the ice goo were to leave her body, her blood would instantly freeze and her body would explode. The original owner wanted to stay by Li Mo's side. So even if he was constantly suffering, she was still willing to spend more time with him. But sometimes, plans couldn't keep up with changes. Bai Shaoqing suddenly coughed up blood and fainted. They had spent half a year together in the thatched cottage in the suburbs, spending every day with each other. Although they weren't husband and wife, they were close friends and family. But even so, they couldn't compare to Bai Shaoqing's importance in her heart. "Senior brother, the poison in your body hasn't been completely removed. You look like this, although Li Mo didn't look old anymore. His skin was still wrinkled and his hair was a little white. I fainted. I have to go. Besides, I have something. I want to say to her, Senior Marshal brother, give me 7 more days. There's no time. One day, I'll think of a way to completely remove the poison in your body." In order to let Li Mo see Bai Shaoqing in his best condition, the original owner decided to force the ice goo out and kill it. Half a day in advance, she sent a messenger pigeon to the head of Medicine King Valley, Hupa, asking for her help. She wanted the ice goo not to die immediately after leaving her body. "I want to send him off. Just one look is enough." After Hupa heard the whole story, she quietly closed her eyes for a long time and sighed deeply. She gave her a bright red pill and told her to take it before forcing the ice goo out. This pill would give her 2 hours. After 2 hours, she would turn into a pool of blood and die. After curing Li Mo, the original owner personally sent him to the carriage. Snow fell from the sky and lightly fell on her hair. Li Mo looked at her. "It's too cold. Hurry and go back. I'll be back soon. Senior brother, if I get sick one day, will you be worried about me? You're a doctor. You can cure yourself. Okay, come back early. Don't catch a cold." The sound of the carriage rumbling through the snow slowly disappeared from her sight. In the next second, her vision went black and she stopped breathing. The black and white impermanence quickly appeared in front of her and brought her to the underworld. Standing on the bridge of helplessness, she met a person wearing a black robe and a black mask. Spectre, her time is up. The lifespan recorded in the Book of Life and Death hasn't come to an end, but he's dead. He needs to work in the underworld until his lifespan comes to an end before he can reincarnate. The black-robed youth frowned. He raised his right hand and a golden light flashed. Today, Madame Luo will be pregnant with a child. Let her reincarnate there. But the Luo manor's good fortune is quite abundant. Their heirs need to choose someone who has made great contributions in their previous life. No need. Do as I say. The black and white impermanence looked at each other and said, "Yes, Spectre." The original owner had just crossed the bridge of helplessness and was about to drink Granny Meng's soup again. When she picked up the Granny Meng's soup, she seemed to see what happened in the summer palace. That familiar young man and the woman he loved. Chapter 36:11. Ching, I've already used medicine to get rid of the poison in your body. You won't faint again in the future. Give birth. Long time no see, Brother Liamo. I'm very happy to see you safe. It's getting late, so I'll be heading back. Brother Liamo, aren't you going to stay a bit longer? Bai Xiaoqing blinked, a faint Guang in her eyes. She knew that Liamo was interested in her, but she and Liamo handled their feelings differently. In her opinion, if Liamo was truly good to her, then she would accept it. After all, she felt that she treated Liamo well. No need. Liamo shook his head. Ching, I won't be able to protect you in the future. You have to take care of yourself. Where are you going? I want to stay by someone's side, even if I always thought that I didn't need her. Seeing Bai Xiaoqing again, he seemed to have seen through his own heart. Perhaps from the beginning, his feelings for her were different from what he had imagined. That one glance had indeed stunned him, but it hadn't warmed his years. The person who truly warmed his years wasn't her. When Liamo returned to the thatched cottage outside the city, the previous host was nowhere to be seen. Hoopa had told him everything, including the fact that the previous host was already dead. Liamo collapsed. He suddenly remembered the words she had asked him when they parted. At that time, she already knew that she was about to die, but he hadn't noticed at all. When he turned to leave, he didn't see the tears in her eyes, the tears she was holding back. Standing by the bridge of helplessness, the previous host's hands trembled slightly. She closed her eyes and drank Meng Po's soup without hesitation. She muttered, "If there really is a next life, please don't meet me." She didn't know if it was because her words were fulfilled or if the previous host wasn't sincere when she drank Meng Po's soup. In this life, the previous host died before she was even born. Although the Luo family was a large family, Master Luo was someone who liked the new and hated the old. When Luo Mu was pregnant with the previous host, Master Luo took the top hostess of Wanhua House as his concubine and indulged in a life of luxury. The previous host's mother directly jumped into the lake to commit suicide. At that time, the previous host died before she was even born. But this time, she wasn't so lucky. An unborn child wouldn't be registered in hell. In other words, she could only temporarily linger between yin and yang, waiting for an unknown outcome. This outcome could be ascension to godhood, or it could also be annihilation. The original owner had an obsession in his heart. He wandered in the underworld for 1,000 years before he met the young man who wore a black robe 1,000 years ago and was now wearing a black coat. Unfortunately, she only saw him, and before she could say a word, her body broke apart uncontrollably, and in the end, she turned into ashes. Because of a decision he made 1,000 years ago, she wandered the underworld for 1,000 years, unable to reincarnate. She really wanted to ask him what kind of deep hatred there was between them that made him treat her like this. Unfortunately, before he could ask, the soul of the original owner had already disappeared from this world. Because of the obsession in its heart, this wisp of light's soul came to the primal chaos space and had a host. Luo Qingshan stood in place. Looking at the gloomy scene around her, the corners of her mouth forming a sneer. She thought she would return to the previous host's first life and change her fate, so she wouldn't be infatuated with someone who wasn't worth it. Even if it wasn't good enough, she should have been born properly in the second life. Then she could go back and see Liemo and by Xiaoqing's ending. What a pity, what a pity, she returned to the underworld 1,000 years later. Was this a joke? Chapter 36:12. Luo Qingqian's lips curled into a cold smile. The exquisite ring on her right hand flashed, releasing a faint golden light. This soul was about to scatter. Of course, she had the exquisite ring now, so she wouldn't turn into ashes like the original host. Only, she didn't know how long she could last. Was that person wearing a black coat the male lead? His name on the bronze panel was Shuangzi. Yo, little devil, why are you floating here today? Standing on the side was a thief who had accidentally fallen from the 16th floor. Because the family he had stolen from was the home of a corrupt official, the police had followed the clues and found a large number of sinful people. Because of this, King Yama's sentence had not been passed down yet. On one hand, he was a thief, so he should have had a miserable life. But because of his appearance, they found the corrupt official, which was a great merit. This matter was hard to judge, so he was the same as the original host, wandering in the underworld. Luo Qingqian casually replied and walked forward. It was probably because the exquisite ring's power was strong. The black and white impermanences instantly appear by her side. At this moment, there was a youth wearing a black coat standing not far away. It's you? He gently knit his brows. How long have you been here? Unhumph? Luo Qingqian gave a soft snort. Thanks to you, it's been 1,000 years. Seeing you again, I have a question I want to ask. Ask. What kind of deep grudge do you have with me that you want me to reincarnate into the Luo family from 1,000 years ago? Luo Qingqian narrowed her eyes. It can't be that I've ruined your peach blossom, right? The black and white impermanences reprimanded at the same time. Little devil, do you know who you're with? How can she reincarnate now? Shuangzi interrupted the black and white impermanences and asked, This, I'm afraid, I can't, come with me. Shuangzi brought her to another world. When she turned to look at her, a blue light flickered on her fingertips. She gently tapped her forehead and said, I'll bring you back to where you should go. It's you, not her. Shuangzi seemed to see another version of her through her eyes. It was as if there was no way to hide her identity as the host from him. In the next second, Shuangzi waved her right hand, and Luo Qingqian felt her body become lighter. Soon, he fell into darkness. The black and white impermanence rushed in. They looked around and didn't see Luo Qingqian's figure. They immediately knelt down and said, Ghost God, you have to pay a price for doing this. Yes. He smiled faintly and said, I don't know why I'm looking forward to it, but I want to go to the human world to accompany her. Chini narrowed his eyes, adjusted the time on the watch on his right hand, and sped up the time by 18 hours. Then, he shut his eyes and vanished from hell. No matter what, he felt that she owed him, and it was time for him to return to her. He was an immortal god in this world. Perhaps it was because he had lived for too long that he liked to stay in some unknown villages. Sometimes he would transform into a stone, sometimes he would transform into a tree, and sometimes he would transform into an ocean. 1,000 years ago, he transformed into the big maple tree in front of the Luo family's door on Tigerhead Mountain. He was probably lonely, and his favorite thing to do was to sleep. However, he didn't think that although he had blessed the villagers there, he had also absorbed the resources of the Luo family's land. Therefore, he could grow into a towering tree, but the Luo family didn't have a good harvest every year. Chapter 36:13. 1,000 years ago, he saw the previous host passed and decided to arrange a good family for her. What he didn't expect was that his good intentions didn't work out. The previous host had left the mortal world before she was even born, but because there was no record of her in the underworld, she had wandered around here for 1,000 years. He was self-disciplined and wouldn't come to the underworld for no reason, but this time he came back because the king of hell summoned him. Coincidentally, he met her again. He could see that her life was over from the formation of her soul, but when he looked in her eyes, he could feel the aura of another person. Even if she couldn't reincarnate, she would turn to ashes sooner or later if she stayed in the underworld. There was only one way to save her, which was to give her his godhood and let her be reborn in the 10,000 worlds. As for the person who was reborn, it would depend on fate. When she opened her eyes again, the surroundings were filled with the smell of formalin and alcohol. The surrounding temperature was very low, and the visibility was also very low. Logically speaking, this kind of smell should belong to a hospital, but why was it so dark? Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and used the exquisite ring to light up the surroundings. The scene that entered her eyes made her slightly stunned. There were 8 or 9 rows of strollers covered in white cloth. Taking a deep breath, she could even smell the smell of corrosion. Morgue. This was a hospital, but it was a hospital morgue. She slightly knit her brows. She had come to the modern world. But the scary thing was that she didn't have any memories of the previous owner of this body. The next second, she touched her chest. The chest that had been stitched up with needles was slowly healing back to its original appearance. The other large and small wounds on her body were also slowly healing. It seemed like the previous owner of this body had undergone open chest surgery before her death, but the surgery didn't allow her to survive. Host, the owner of this body, is still the previous host. The system was still here. Thinking about it, the exquisite ring was still on her, so it was normal for the system to still be here. If the previous host hadn't met Shuangxi in the past and reincarnated according to the Book of Life and Death, she would have her current identity after 10 reincarnations. Luo Qingshun suddenly understood. So this was a parallel world. Yes, but I don't have her memories. How did she die? Why did she die? Host, please wait a moment. 10 minutes later, the exquisite ring on her right hand once again emitted a faint light. Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for the parallel world's current host's memories. You went there for 10 minutes just to covet my meager exchange points? Also, he needed to exchange points to receive memories. Because this is a parallel universe, the host can only receive the original owner's memories as a bystander. The system is doing this for the good of the host. Fine. In the next second, the exquisite ring flashed with a golden light, and the experiences of the owner of this body appeared in front of her eyes. She was the illegitimate daughter of a rich man and had no idea of her identity before she turned 18. When the rich man found out that his time was up, he asked the butler to look for her. The rich man finally found his illegitimate daughter. The rich man felt sorry for her and left a large portion of his inheritance to her. However, the rich man had a new wife. She couldn't accept that the rich man had left her so much money, so she thought of a way to create a traffic accident and kill her. After all, if she didn't die, the rich man's other wish was for her to marry into the Shuang family, which was also a rich family. But the fact was, the Shuang family situation seemed to be more chaotic than their Luo family. Chapter 36:14. Luo Qingshun rubbed her head, watching everything that happened in this body like she was watching a movie. 10 minutes later, she came to a conclusion. Parallel universes were 2 different universes. Because the original Luo Qingshun didn't think she was a good person. To be more precise, she went from a person with nothing to a rich family's daughter. Her ambition and methods were greater than anyone else's. However, she was one step behind and was taken by the Luo family's new wife, Yang Yaji. If her calculations were more accurate, perhaps the person lying here would be Yang Yaji. If the original Luo Qingshun didn't die, according to her memories, the person she wanted to marry wasn't Shuangxi. The person she wanted to marry was the Shuang family's young master, Shuanglan. The Shuang family had a total of 3 children. Adding on Master Shuang's favorite, Madame Shuang's younger brother's son, Liemo, there were a total of 4 people who had the chance to inherit Master Shuang's inheritance. Liemo, Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows as she had a strange feeling in her heart. It seemed like all the characters and plots were related to what happened 1,000 years ago. That year's Liemo, that year's original Luo Qingshun. However, according to the current situation, the person she should go see the Luo family's young madam, Yang Yaji. She didn't know what kind of expression she would have if she saw her daughter coming back from the morgue. At the same time, the Luo family's villa. A white cage was hung high up as cries filled the room. The one who cried the most miserably was Yang Yaji, who was kneeling in front of the cenotaph. The rest of the people stood in 2 rows with tears in their eyes. However, if one looked carefully, they would be able to see the indifference in their eyes. Before Master Luo died, he left 60% of his inheritance to the original Luo Qingchen. The rest of the people could only get 40% of the inheritance. Everyone present naturally wanted the original Luo Qingchen to die. As for who did it, it didn't matter. Among them, there was only one man who didn't have tears in his eyes. There was only a touch of coldness. He was the son of Master Luo's last wife, Luo Jin. Qingchen, how can you leave like this? Woo-woo, you're making your mother's heart hurt so much. That's right. Master loves Qingchen so much that he even gave her the most of his inheritance. How could she? Inheritance is nothing. Qingchen's life is the most important thing. Yang Yaji cried as she wiped her tears and said, "If Qingchen can come back, I can leave my inheritance to her." "Madam, don't be sad. Your health is more important." The eldest daughter, Luo Shui, said, "It's probably because Dad misses Qingchen too much." In fact, if Luo Qingchen hadn't seen this scene with her own eyes, she couldn't even imagine that there was a group of people in this world who could act this big show so well without any rehearsals. Knock, knock, knock. Luo Qingchen gently knocked on the door, interrupting the drama. She cleared her throat and said, "Don't be so sad, little mom. But if you are willing to give me the inheritance left by Dad, I will be happy to accept it." Hiss! At this moment, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and stared at the door with wide eyes. Except for Luo Jin. Although his eyes flashed with a touch of surprise, he soon narrowed his eyes slightly, and the corner of his mouth raised into an extremely faint smile. Chapter 36:15. Qing! Qingchen! Yang Yaji's face turned pale in an instant. How could it be? How could she appear? She didn't know why, but she could see Yang Yaji's face changing like rain. "What's wrong?" Luo Qingchen came forward and leaned against the cenotaph. She narrowed her eyes as she looked at Yang Yaji and said, "Didn't little mom just cry over my death? Why don't you look happy at all seeing that I'm still alive?" The people standing on both sides swallowed their saliva, looked at each other, and didn't dare to say a word. After all, an hour ago, all of them saw with their own eyes that she breathed her last in the hospital. 5 minutes later, the doctor announced her death, and then pushed her body into the morgue. Now, less than an hour later, she was standing in front of them. Except for some bloodstains on her body, there was no wound at all. Yang Yaji took a deep breath, using all her strength to control her breathing. "That doctor is too much. Qingchen, you are clearly still alive, but he said you have already. How do you know I'm still alive?" In an instant, Yang Yaji staggered back, and the relatives standing on both sides didn't feel the need to retreat. Everyone's face looked extremely ugly. The girl in front of them was completely different from the girl who first came to Luo family. Although her appearance didn't change, the tone of voice and the expression between her eyebrows were very different. Lazily leaning on the cenotaph, hands in the pockets of the denim shirt, the shirt inside was still bleeding. The warm light through the window shone on her snow-white skin, only to see her eyelashes fluttering. The corner of her mouth outlined a very faint smile. "Don't worry, I'm not a ghost." Phew! The next second, Yang Yaji took a long breath, looked at her, and said, "Qingchen, it's good that you're okay. Quickly go take a bath and change clothes." "Housekeeper, madam." A man wearing a coffee-colored plaid suit and gold-rimmed glasses came forward. "Madam, what's your order?" "Hurry up and deal with these cenotaphs. Also, take down all the white flowers, white cloth, and white lanterns at the entrance." Yang Yaji tried her best to calm her tone and said, "Miss has already returned. Don't keep these things, lest they bring bad luck." In an instant, Luo Qingchen gently flipped her slightly curly long hair, narrowed her eyes slightly, and said with a chuckle, Then I'll leave the rest to my stepmother and brothers and sisters. I'm going to have a good rest after going through the gates of hell. Qing Chun go and rest. Luo Shue's mouth twitched as she looked at her with a fake smile. Just leave the rest of the trivial matters to Big Brother and Big Sister. Second Madam's daughter, Rosa, echoed. That's right, that's right. You need to drink more water and rest more. When we're done here, we'll go to your room to see you. Luo Qingchun didn't respond. Instead, she turned around and walked towards the stairs of the villa. This man named Luo Banshan married a total of 4 wives. The first 2 wives gave birth to a daughter, and the third wife gave birth to a son. The last wife, Yang Yazi, didn't give birth to a son or a daughter for Luo Banshan before Luo Banshan passed away. These eyes didn't seem to be good people. It seemed that rich people having too many wives was also a very troublesome thing. Chapter 36:16. Luo Qingqian returned to her room and tried to remember where the things were. This time the memory was different from before. It wasn't a direct memory transfer, but a bystander looking at the original host's memories. Actually, this was very different for her. There was a difference in the details between a personal experience and a bystander's story. However, it was a good thing that Luo Qingqian's memory wasn't bad. He walked around the 500 square meter room and memorized the general idea of everything. After taking a shower, she chose a white pullover sweater and a navy blue jacket from the thousands of clothes she had. She wore a coffee-colored skirt underneath. The original host had all kinds of clothes. She just casually matched them and didn't choose any gorgeous clothes. Most of these clothes were prepared on the first day she came here. At that time, Luo Banshan was very good to her. Although the other people in the family were dissatisfied, they didn't think of doing anything extreme. After all, if something happened, it would only make the remaining people happy. But none of them thought that after Luo Banshan died, he would leave 60% of his inheritance to the original host. This wasn't a small amount. The remaining people could only split 40% of the inheritance. Although this money was enough for them to live for a lifetime, they weren't willing. Therefore, they decided to create an accident. The main planner was Yang Yaji, but everyone in the Luo family knew about this, and everyone was involved. Therefore, when Luo Qingqian appeared in front of them without any injuries, they were all shocked. Of course, Luo Jin wasn't. Yang Yaji had also secretly threatened him if he didn't participate in this matter. In the future, he wouldn't get a single cent from Luo Qingqian's inheritance. But she didn't know that Luo Jin didn't care at all. He even used a cold and arrogant tone to say to Yang Yazi, "If you want to do something, don't leave any traces behind. Otherwise, I can't be sure if I won't do something that will shock you." Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Luo Qingqian put down the hairdryer in her hand and walked towards the door. The moment she opened the door, she saw Luo Jin standing at the door. He put his hands in the pockets of his suit pants and leaned against the door, looking at her. "Do you need to go to the hospital for a checkup?" His voice was very cold, as cool as water, but inexplicably pleasant to the ears. "It seems that you're the only one who still cares about me in this family," Luo Qingqian chuckled. "After all, you're the first one who asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital. Under normal circumstances, even if a corpse had come to life, the family's first reaction would be to send the corpse to the hospital for another examination. However, Yang Yaji, Luo Shui, and Luo Shan never thought of taking her to the hospital for a checkup. Repeating her rebirth was a nightmare for them, a terrifying nightmare. "No need." Luo Jin shook her head and said, "If there's nothing else, I won't go in." The two of them looked at each other. Luo Jin's eyes were slightly cold. He was very good-looking, with deep eyes and a vigorous figure. His delicate skin had an enchanting luster to it. It was as if looking at him for too long would cause one to sink into the mud. No wonder he seemed to be an actor in addition to being Luo Banshan's son. Moreover, he was a very popular actor. "Oh," Luo Qingqian suddenly understood and said, "Don't worry. It's nothing even if the paparazzi took a picture of a brother entering his sister's room." Chapter 36:17. Luo Jin was stunned for a moment before he shook his head and said, "That's not the reason." "Then what's the reason?" Luo Jin did not immediately reply to her. After a while, He narrowed his eyes and said, I'm not used to entering a girl's room. All right. Luo Qingchun shrugged and said, then does Big Brother have anything else? If not, I'll close the door. Qingchun, seeing that she was about to close the door, Luo Jin couldn't help calling out her name. Although I don't know how you survived, they won't let you go for the inheritance. I suggest you move out first. Luo Qingchun looked at his focused and serious eyes, and her lips curled into a faint smile. Don't I still have Big Brother? Because she couldn't see through him. Even if they weren't familiar, she still tried to test his bottom line again and again. This Luo Jin shouldn't have much interaction with the original host, but his concern wasn't fake and pretentious. It was as if it came from his heart. Luo Qingchun didn't understand, so she used another method to test his inner thoughts. I can't protect you all the time. Luo Jin looked away. The sunlight passed through the corridor and stretched out his shadow. Moreover, in this kind of family, it's better for our relationship to be as far apart as possible. Since we've already drawn the line, there's no need for Mr. Luo to worry about it. Luo Qingchun gently touched her curly hair and said, but you can rest assured that I won't give them a chance to kill me. He didn't know why, but at this moment, Luo Jin saw killing intent in this 18-year-old girl's eyes. Don't worry. Luo Qingchun saw the worry in his eyes, and her lips curled. I disdain killing them. He took a deep breath and looked at the lazy look in her eyes. There was an indescribable throbbing in his heart. Half an hour later, Luo Qingchun called Li Sun, who was Luo Banshan's private lawyer. He had followed Luo Banshan for decades, and handling the Luo clan's inheritance was the last thing he could do for Luo Banshan. Li Sun was surprised when he received a call from Luo Qingchun. 2 hours ago, Yang Yaji called him and told him that Luo Qingchun died in the hospital and asked him to redraw her will. Only 2 hours later, he received a call from Luo Qingchun again. He felt inexplicably excited. I'm just calling to report that I'm safe. Luo Qingchun chuckled on the phone. Help me prepare something. Miss, please give me your orders. Pistol. At the same time, Yang Yaji's room. Shi Luo Shui and Luo Sha had been pacing back and forth in the room for a long time. The three of them looked at each other, still unable to believe what was happening in front of them. You saw it too, right? Yang Yaji bit her lips and said, she was covered in blood and lying on the hospital bed without breathing. This can't be fake. I also don't think it can be fake, and Luo Shui frowned tightly and said, even if we lost our minds, the doctor is still here. The doctor can't lie. Luo Sha was relatively timid. Her face was particularly pale as she curled up in the corner of the sofa and said, but she appeared in front of us alive and well. She came for revenge. Her eyes clearly said that she knew all this was done by us. Shut up, Yang Yaji roared. Right now, we can only think about it carefully. We must not panic. I absolutely don't believe that there are so-called ghosts in this world. Chapter 36:18. She didn't believe it. She wouldn't believe it even if she died. There must be something wrong with this. As long as she investigated it, she would be able to find a flaw. It was already evening when Li Sun brought the prepared pistol to the villa for Luo Qingchun. The sun was slowly setting, and it was a beautiful sight. Miss, are you really okay? Do you need to go to the hospital or find a private doctor? Li Sun was obviously still worried about Luo Qingchun's health. After all, Luo Banshan had told Li Sun to protect Luo Qingchun well before he died. But she didn't even have time to inherit the property before he heard the news of her death. Now, fortunately, she was still alive. He still had a chance to fulfill his mission and protect her. No need. Luo Qingchun's cold eyes narrowed. She sat upright and picked up the coffee at hand to take a sip. After dinner tonight, help me make an appointment with Yang Yaji. Madam? And Luo Qingchun gently nodded and said, they move so fast. If I fall behind, wouldn't I not be the Luo family's young miss? But miss, Li Sun glanced at the pistol in her hand and said, Miss, don't tell me you want it. Don't worry. I just want to solve this matter cleanly. Luo Qingchun lightly leaned on the sofa. Her eyes flashed with a touch of Liguang. I hate this kind of low IQ people the most. Now that she hadn't entered the Shuang family, she still had to solve her own family's problems. I'm just worried that Madam might not give up. Miss and her alone. What I want to do tonight is to make her give up. 7 o'clock in the evening. Luo Qingshun and Yang Yaji met on time in the back garden. Yang Yaji secretly arranged several bodyguards around to protect her at all times. Qingshun's complexion looks much better. Little Mom is relieved. Yang Yaji's words were still very fake, but she seemed to carry this fake to the end, so it sounded a little smooth when it came out. Little Mom, I heard that there will be a meteor shower at Mount Xiaoshan tonight. Why don't we go and have a look? Luo Qingshun said with a faint smile, but her eyes were cold. Yang Yaji was stunned for a moment. She actually felt an inexplicable fear towards Luo Qingshun. However, if they were going to Autumn Mountain, wouldn't this be a good opportunity for her to strike again? Are you alone? Yang Yaji asked tentatively. Hearing this, Luo Qingshun gently tucked her curly hair behind her ear with her right hand. She looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle and said, now that my only family in this world has left, if my stepmother is not free, I can go alone. Of course not. Yang Yaji immediately showed a caring smile and looked at her. How can Little Mom be at ease with you going up the mountain alone? Although Xiaoshan is very close to our villa, I'm still worried. I'll go with you. Okay. Luo Qingshun's lips curved into an extremely faint smile. She said softly, thank you, Little Mom. She drove the jeep she just bought towards Mount Xiaoshan. Because it was winter, there weren't many people. Most of the people watching the meteor shower took the other side of the mountain road instead of the car road. Luo Qingshun naturally knew that there were at least 3 cars following her car. They were all there to protect Yang Yaji's safety. Little Mom, the meteor shower is about to start. Luo Qingshun slightly narrowed her eyes and the corners of her mouth lifted slightly. I'm going to speed up. Chapter 36:19. In the next second, the original 60 kilometers per hour speed suddenly soared to 100 kilometers per hour, and Yang Yaji's face instantly turned pale. Even her lips were pale, and her whole body trembled slightly under the shaking of the car. There was a big curve not far ahead, and Yang Yaji saw it and immediately shouted, slow down. Luo Qingshun raised her lips and chuckled. She didn't slow down, but turned the steering wheel sharply, and then heard the long and harsh sound of the tires rubbing against the ground. At this time, the car had reached 120 kilometers per hour, and Yang Yaji directly cried with a trembling voice, stop, stop, stop. Little Mom, if we have a car accident at this time, how do you think our family's inheritance will be divided? In the quiet mountain forest, Luo Qingshun's voice was as cold as a ghost, and every word shocked Yang Yaji's heart. At this speed, almost all of her reason collapsed in an instant. I beg you, stop, stop. At this moment, other than begging bitterly, she couldn't say anything else. Her mind was blank, and she couldn't think at all, because at this time, Luo Qingshun's car was getting closer and closer to the cliff at the top of Mount Xiaoshan. She chuckled, and at the moment Yang Yaji's voice was hoarse, she stepped on the brake. Screech, the harsh sound of the brakes rang in her ears. At this time, Yang Yaji hugged her head with both hands, bent over and curled up, and her body couldn't stop trembling. With 2 clicks, Luo Qingshun opened the car door and said, how does it feel to have a trip to the gates of hell? Does it feel very exciting? Probably because she was in a state of high tension just now. All the cells in Yang Yaji's body were still, and when she suddenly stopped, her stomach rolled. Wretch! She immediately opened the car door and vomited. She didn't know that her legs were soft, and halfway through vomiting, her whole body collapsed on the ground. Are you crazy? Yang Yaji breathed rapidly and said, if you want to die, don't take me. The winter night of Mount Xiaoshan was particularly cold, and the cold wind blew on her face, giving people a feeling of death. If I want to die, I'll take you with me. Luo Qingshun sneered. After all, you can't wait to see me die, right? In the next second, Yang Yaji's already pale face became even uglier. Even her lips were trembling uncontrollably. What are you talking about? I don't understand. In an instant, the 3 black cars that were following them entered their field of vision. The headlights were very bright. At this moment, to Yang Yaji, it was as if God was emitting a dazzling light. The fear in her heart instantly dissipated, and her whole person became more and more unyielding. She took a deep breath and slowly stood up. She looked at Luo Qingchun with a look of disdain. "You're right. I can't wait for you to die. On what basis? On what basis can you, an illegitimate daughter, get so much property, and I pay the price of my youth, but get so little? On what basis?" He. After hearing these words, Luo Qingchun couldn't help but sneer. She narrowed her eyes and said, "It turns out that someone put a gun to your head and made you pay the price of your youth." Yang Yaji gritted her teeth. She knew that Luo Qingchun was mocking her, but she didn't care. Because the other party was about to die, why should she bother with a dead person? Chapter 36:20. She slowly stood up and immediately walked behind the bodyguards who got out of the 3 black cars. "You drove so fast just now. The surveillance cameras should have captured it. If you die in a traffic accident tomorrow, no one will doubt it." Luo Qingchun smiled coldly. "Not to mention that the surveillance cameras must have captured you in the car. The question is, are you really so sure that these people in front of you can kill me?" The burly men were unhappy when they heard Luo Qingchun's words. They crossed their arms and looked at her contemptuously. "Ha ha ha." The next second, Yang Yaji laughed sharply and looked at Luo Qingchun. "Even if you are powerful, do you think these are just ordinary bodyguards? Even if you can fight, it's useless. They all have guns." At this moment, the 6 burly men standing in front of her took out their pistols from their pockets and pointed them at Luo Qingchun. But there was no trace of panic in her eyes. They were as calm as water and as cold as frost. "You really don't know why I stopped breathing in the hospital and was declared dead, but suddenly appeared in the villa?" Her tone was faint and gave people a feeling of coldness. Yang Yaji's heart thumped, and she felt a chill on her back. But all the advantages were on her side. She didn't need to be afraid at all. "So what?" Yang Yaji stepped back slightly and said, "It doesn't matter now. You only have one ending." "Oh, is that so?" Luo Qingchun half leaned against her car and touched her ear slightly. She smiled faintly and said, "Then you can try to shoot me. Do you think I don't dare?" Yang Yaji showed a sinister smile. "After you die, I just need to make an explosion. Your face will be destroyed and nothing will be found. Well, you can shoot me." Luo Qingchun's aggressiveness made Yang Yaji's fear even greater. She gritted her teeth and said, "Shoot me, tisk." There was a ringing sound in her ears, and Luo Qingchun closed her eyes as she silently said this. Space-time freeze. Everything around her suddenly became still. She narrowed her eyes and walked forward lightly. She took the pistols from the 6 people's hands and slightly arranged the position of the bullets in the air. She threw the pistol into the sea below the cliff and stood in front of the car. Clack, clack. With a crisp snap of his fingers, everything returned to normal. The bullet flew past her ear and hit the tree stump behind her. The ferocious-looking men standing in front of her all revealed terrified expressions at this moment. "Where's my pistol? What happened? What happened just now? There's a ghost. There's a ghost here. You're not human. You're definitely not human. I'll give you 3 seconds. Either get lost or die." In an instant, she suddenly nodded and said with a faint smile, 3, 2, we'll get lost. We'll get lost." The group of burly men immediately bowed and begged in a trembling voice, "Don't kill us. Please don't kill us." They almost didn't hesitate and rushed into the black car. Yang Yaji was stunned in place. Her pair of foxy eyes were full of panic. Chapter 36:21. "Don't go. Don't go. I'm the boss who pays you. How can you just leave like this?" One of the burly men stepped on the accelerator and didn't forget to stick his head out and spit. "Why don't you see what kind of terrifying person you've offended?" When his voice fell, he didn't forget to glance at Luo Qingchun, but he was intimidated by the cold light in her eyes. He immediately stepped on the accelerator and drove away. The surroundings instantly fell into silence and an austere aura. And this aura came from Luo Qingchun, whose eyes were languid and expression as cold as frost. "Don't come over. Don't come over." Yang Yaji fell into deep fear at this moment. This fear made her feel incomparable despair. She saw that Luo Qingshun was still in the same place. So she immediately turned around and planned to run down the mountain with all her strength. But before she could run 2 steps, she bumped into Luo Qingshun head-on. The huge impact caused her to stumble backward and fall to the ground. You, how can you be here? How can it be? Yang Yaji's consciousness was on the verge of collapse at this moment, because the person standing in front of her was as terrifying as a demon. Luo Qingshun's cold eyes narrowed and raised an extremely faint sneer. She took out a gun from her pocket and pointed it at Yang Yaji's head. There are 3 bullets in this gun. In other words, you have a 50-50 chance of dying and a 50-50 chance of surviving. The next second, she put the gun on the ground and put her hands back in her pockets. She narrowed her eyes and said, "Do it yourself." Yang Yaji was so frightened by the huge fear that she couldn't move until Luo Qingshun lowered her voice and said slowly, "Do you want me to shoot for you?" Yang Yaji's body froze in an instant, and she immediately raised the gun in front of her and pointed it at Luo Qingshun. Luo Qingshun didn't dodge at all. Her eyes were still indifferent, and there was a faint sneer at the corner of her mouth. Yang Yaji was trembling. Her whole body was trembling, because she knew very well that even if she fired the gun, she couldn't kill this demon-like person in front of her. She had no choice at all. In a flash, she closed her eyes, put the gun to her temple, and pulled the trigger with all her strength. Click! There was only the sound of the trigger, but there was no bullet. Yang Yaji's legs went soft, and the gun in her hand fell to the ground with a thud. She also fell down. Looks like you're in luck. Luo Qingshun picked up the gun. Ding ding! 3 bullets to the ground. Yang Yaji looked at the bullets on the ground and trembled even more. She hadn't lied to her. It really was a 50-50 chance. Half would live, half would die. Since God has given you a chance, I will spare your life tonight. Teet, 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 teet says don'ts. Teet. I. Also, tell your sons and daughters who want the inheritance to behave. Luo Qingshun said coldly. Dad's inheritance to all of you is only 40%, but it's enough for you to live a rich life. Why do you have to do something that will cost you your lives? Yes, you're right. Yang Yaji tried hard to control her emotions so that she wouldn't tremble. Unfortunately, her body didn't allow it. Even if she knew that Luo Qingshun wouldn't kill her, her heart was still filled with endless fear. Chapter 36:22. 3 hours later, Luo Qingshun leisurely returned to the Luo family's villa. As soon as the car stopped at the door, Luo Jin walked out of the villa. They looked at each other, and there was some doubt in his eyes. Are you all right? His brows were slightly knit as he softly looked at Luo Qingshun. She shrugged and smiled faintly. Do I look like something's wrong? Luo Jin gave people a special feeling. He wanted to care about someone, but he knew how to express his concern. He didn't make people feel too distant, but he also didn't make people feel too close. It's good that you're okay. Luo Jin nodded and said meaningfully, she came back half an hour ago. The police car sent her back. Luo Qingshun said with a faint smile. It seems like she left quite quickly. It would take more than 2 hours to walk from the top of Mount Xiushan to the foot of the mountain. Yang Yaji must have called the police when she reached the foot of the mountain. What did you do to her? Luo Jin didn't want to ask. But growing up in a rich family, he naturally understood the personality of Yang Yaji's 30-year-old stepmother. She was definitely not someone easy to deal with. She might even be related to the deaths of Luo Banshan's first 3 wives. But ever since he was born, he had never seen Yang Yaji rush home like she did today. Her face was pale. She used all her strength to rush to her room and lock the door. No matter how Luo Shui and Luo Sha knocked, Yang Yaji didn't open the door. But she said to them with a trembling voice, "The door to hell has been opened. There are ghosts, there are ghosts." Luo Shui and Luo Sha naturally didn't know what Yang Yaji meant, but they were obviously afraid of Luo Qingshun, the so-called illegitimate daughter of Luo Banshan. I didn't do anything to her. Luo Qingshun lazily narrowed her eyes. I just told her some legends about ghosts, but I didn't expect her to be so scared. Luo Jin narrowed his eyes. He naturally knew that what Luo Qingshan said to him wasn't true. Perhaps it was not the complete version. It's good that you're fine. Tomorrow, people from the Shuang clan will come. Luo Jin looked away. Li Xin should have told you about the marriage that Dad arranged for you, right? Yes. Luo Qingshan nodded and said, I'm marrying someone from the Shuang clan, but they didn't force me to marry anyone. Do you want to marry him? After asking this question, Luo Jin felt that it was a little inappropriate. So she changed her question. What I mean is, who do you want to marry? With a gentle night breeze, Luo Chun closed her eyes and felt the fragrance of the pear blossoms in the yard. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she said, Won't you know who I want to marry tomorrow? Luo Jin didn't ask any more questions. Luo Qingchun yawned and walked towards the villa as she said, Rest early. Good night. Okay, good night. After taking a shower, Luo Qingshan laid on the bed and searched for information about the Shuang clan. Frost Crane had a total of 3 sons. The eldest son, Shuanglan, the second son, Shuangying, and the third son, Shuangzi. Shuanglan gave people the impression that he was an elegant young master, and in many people's eyes, he was an extremely diligent person. Whether it was in school or now, when he took over the affairs of the Shuang group, he spent 3 to 4 times more time than others, striving to do his best. In other words, he was a very capable person. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 36-23. No wonder Luo Banshan wanted her to marry him. Based on the current situation, Shuanglan was indeed the most capable successor of the Shuang family. As for her second son, Shuangying, he was a genius in everyone's eyes. Shuangying only needed a few hours to do what Shuanglan needed a week to do. Therefore, for Shuanglan, Shuangying was a very strong opponent. Although he was her own brother, in the face of such a huge family business, Shuanglan also quietly began to make some small moves. For example, winning over shareholders, increasing her own power on the board of directors, and so on. But the heavens generally favor the smart. Even if Shuangying didn't do so much, he still received the support of many board members. As for Liu Mo, in this world, Liu Mo had always been a person who stood aloof from worldly affairs. In addition, he was only a relative, so he had no interest in inheriting the Shuang family business. However, Madame Shuang had always had high expectations for Liu Mo. The 3 sons of the Shuang family were not born of the current Madame Shuang and Li Kaiwei, but of the previous Madame. After Li Kaiwei married Frost Crane, she didn't have any children. Therefore, even if Liu Mo couldn't inherit any of the family property, she still hoped that her nephew could have a good senior position in the company. Luo Qingshan flipped through her phone and finally found the youngest son of the Shuang family, Shuangzi. His name was displayed on the bronze panel. His personal profile was short, but it was very insightful. When he was young, because of a car accident, he hit his head. Since then, he went from a genius to a fool. Yes, he was once a genius. At the age of 5, he had the ability to remember everything he saw. Frost Crane told everyone that Shuangzi would be his successor in the future. Unfortunately, after the car accident at the age of 6, he turned into a fool. Luo Qingshan rubbed her temples. She really had a headache. No wonder after she came to this world, the male lead didn't have the slightest intention of looking for her. It turned out that he was a fool. What does the host plan to do? What could she do? Accept it with a smile. Luo Qingshan put down her phone and set the alarm. She planned to have a good sleep first. After all, there was still a lot of work to do tomorrow. Early the next morning, Frost Crane brought his sons over. Luo Qingshan tidied herself up a little before heading to the hall to meet them. Miss! Li Xin saw her and bowed slightly. Master Shuang and their son are already waiting for you. Okay. Luo Qingshan nodded gently and walked towards the hall. Frost Crane was wearing a dark suit. Although he was in his 40s, he still looked very young. This was probably the case of a flower in 40 men that was often mentioned in books. Qingshan, is this Qingshan? Frost Crane extended his hand and revealed a faint smile. I'm a good friend of your father's for decades. You can call me Uncle Frost. Hello, Uncle Shuang. Luo Qingshan smiled politely. These are my sons. As soon as Frost Crane's voice fell, Shuanglan spared no effort in introducing himself. Miss Qingshun, I've heard a lot about you. I'm Shuanglan. He extended his hand. Luo Qingshun also extended her hand and responded. Hello. It's just that I'm neither a public figure nor a political figure. Young Master Shuang, I really don't dare to accept your greeting. Luo Qingshun could clearly feel Shuanglan's expression change. In addition to surprise, there was also doubt in those dark eyes. After all, he and Luo Qingshun had no interaction at all, but he could feel the hostility from the other. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 36-24. She was indeed hostile towards him because he had a rumored girlfriend called by Xiaoqing. For some reason, the person who had a dispute with Bai Xiaoqing in this life wasn't Li Mo, but Shuanglan. I'm Shuangying. Miss Luo, nice to meet you. Likewise. In the next second, Luo Qingshun's gaze landed on Shuangzi. He had a pair of beautiful eyes that shone like stars. It was as if there were no impurities in his eyes. He had a fair face, and his thin lips were slightly red. How should one describe him? He was as refreshing as a spring breeze. If one looked at him for too long, they couldn't help but smile. Although Shuangzi was an idiot, he was much better looking than Shuanglan and Shuangying. Big sister is so beautiful. Frost Crane glanced at Shuangzi. He walked up to her, and with his height of 1.8 meters, he was a head taller than her. He grabbed her arm and said in a childish voice, Big sister is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. In an instant, Shuanglan's face was filled with suppressed laughter. On the other hand, Shuangying's face was filled with disdain. Compared to Shuanglan, Shuangying hated Shuangzi even more. He thought of himself as a genius. No matter what he did, he was incomparably fast. However, on his path of growth, he always lived under the shadow of another person. And that person was also an idiot. There would always be people who would compare him to Shuangzi when she was 5 years old. In fact, before Shuangzi was 5 years old, it was the darkest period of his life. Since there was Jade, why was there a bright future? He was originally a genius, but Shuangzi's birth took away all of his light. As a result, when Shuangzi turned into an idiot, he thought that Shuangzi deserved it. His light gradually returned in the following years. However, once someone compared him to Shuangzi after she turned into a fool, he would become abnormally irritable and his heart would be filled with raging flames. You are also very good-looking. Luo Qingshun looked at Shuangzi with a chuckle and said, You're the most good-looking boy sister has ever seen. She didn't know why, but looking at Shuangzi like this, Luo Qingshun had an indescribable joy in her heart. He had been through so many worlds, so many planes, and had so many personalities, but he had never seen him like this. There was still that ancient mark behind his ear, but he was as cute as a transformed puppy. Really? Shuangzi lowered her eyes, her long eyelashes fanning, and the corners of her mouth curled up into an extremely faint smile as she looked at her and said, Then can I marry elder sister and bring her home? Hey, come on, all right? In the next second, Shuangying crossed her arms and looked at him with an unhappy expression. Even if you don't know how much you are worth, you should at least look at the situation. Shuangzi's eyes flashed with a touch of disappointment, and she slightly pursed her lips. Brother, do you think I'm not good? It's not that I don't think you're good. Shuangying lightly snorted and said, I think you're quite terrible. Terrible? When someone suddenly used this kind of description to describe the young man who had accompanied her for thousands of years, Luo Qingshun's heart suddenly surged with the impulse to fight 300 rounds with this person in front of her. Ha ha! Luo Qingshun looked at Shuangying with a cold expression and said, Why do I not think so? I think you are a person who has no manners. Uncle Shuangying is here, and you talk about your own brother like this? Don't be like this, don't be like this. In the next second, as the eldest brother, Shuanglan immediately stood up and said with a smile, Miss Qingshun, don't be angry. Little Ying's personality is like this, quite straightforward. Chapter 36-25. On the surface, Shuanglan appeared to be trying to mediate, but in reality, she couldn't wait for Shuangying to reveal his ugly side. After all, their father, Frost Crane, attached great importance to his engagement with the Luo family. If there were no accidents, the one who married Luo Qingshun would have a very high chance of becoming the heir of the Shuang family. Now that Frost Crane had put aside his usual arrogance and personally come to the Luo family's villa to discuss this matter, it was obvious how much importance he attached to his engagement with the Luo family. Shuangying felt that he had been humiliated and wanted to fight back, but he never thought that Shuang Crane would look at him before clearing his throat and saying, "Qing Chun, don't be angry. Xiaoying is indeed wrong. Uncle Shuangying, my tone wasn't good either. I just think that since we're a big family, brothers should help each other, accommodate, and tolerate each other." Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and looked at Shuangying. "You shouldn't bully others to show off how powerful you are, right?" "Yes." Shuanglan heard this and gave a thumbs up. "I feel that Miss Qingshun's words coincide with my thoughts." Over the years, he had been ridiculed by Shuangying many times. Relying on his intelligence, he had a feeling that he despised everything. Qingshun is right. Frost Crane saw that Li Mo wasn't speaking, so he awkwardly changed the topic. "This is my nephew, Li Mo. Yes, I know. You know?" Luo Qingshun froze for a moment, then immediately recovered. "I mean, I've heard of him a long time ago." When he saw Li Mo's face again in this world, his heart would still clench. It wasn't pain, but the feeling of sucking in a breath of cold air. Back then, the original Luo Qingshun had sacrificed everything for Li Mo, but in the end, before he closed his eyes, he watched as Li Mo left his sight. Such a scene was as cruel as it could be. "My name is Li Mo. Actually, it wasn't because Li Moqing was cold that he hadn't introduced himself to Luo Qingshun. On the contrary, when he saw Luo Qingshun, there was a very strange feeling in his heart. Throbbing, joy, unease, and even guilt. He didn't know why he would have so many inexplicable feelings when he met a person who had just met his face. However, he knew very well that even if the other party didn't say anything, he would still be able to attract his attention. "Yes," Luo Qingshun responded. She turned to look at Frost Crane and said, "Actually, I know why Uncle Frost is looking for me today." From the looks of it, the Shuang clan was indeed more complicated than the Luo clan. When tens of billions were lost in front of you, the distortion of human nature would form little by little. Kinship, friendship, and love had all become worthless. The only thing that was valuable was the mountains of gold and silver. Frost Crane probably felt that the matter had finally entered the main topic. He hurriedly put down his cup and said, "Since Qingshun said so, then Uncle Frost will get straight to the point. Regarding the betrothal gift and company shares, I have already discussed it with Big Brother Mountain. If you marry into our Shuang clan, you can have anything you want." "Thank you for your kindness, Uncle Frost." Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said with a chuckle, "In that case, I won't beat around the bush. Qingshun, if there's anything you want to say, just say it. I'm willing to marry into the Shuang clan and fulfill my father's last wish." Luo Qingshun pulled the smiling Xuanxi over and said, "I want to marry him, can I? Come." Wonderful Book House. Chapter 36-26. Everyone present was stunned for a moment, and they all looked at Luo Qingshun in disbelief. The boy next to her was still smiling happily, but there was a special emotion in his originally innocent and harmless eyes. But this emotion quickly dissipated, and it became pure and harmless eyes again. "You, Miss Qingshun, you?" Shuanglan was the most shocked. Even if he closed his eyes and guessed, he couldn't have guessed that this girl named Luo Qingshun in front of him had decided to marry Xuanxi. "Come on, he's a fool, okay?" Shuangying was also very surprised, but he didn't show it on the surface. He just snorted and looked at her with disdain. "Miss Luo's taste is really not that good. I can't help it." Luo Qingshun gently shrugged and said in a lazy tone, "Who told me to be obsessed with looks? I only like beautiful things, whether it's on the surface or inside." Shuangying heard this and immediately retorted, "Miss Luo, why don't you say that you only like stupid things, whether it's on the surface or inside? If I'm really such a person as you say, then I should choose you." In terms of offensive skills, no matter if it was an ordinary person or a genius, Luo Qingshun would never lose. "You." For the first time in his life, Xuanying didn't know how to refute the words that were on the tip of his tongue. The other party's strong aura suppressed him, and he felt an inexplicable fear in his heart. Littling, don't talk like that. Frost Crane's face sank. As an older brother, how can you say that to your younger brother? Xuanying bit his lips and tried to calm his emotions. I know, Dad. Ahem. The next second, Frost Crane cleared his throat and looked at Luo Qingshun. Qingshun, although Uncle Xuanying doesn't know why you made such a choice after all, he paused and continued. Xuangzi is a good child, but are you sure? I'm sure. Luo Qingshun looked at Xuangzi with a smile on her face. She gently patted his head and said, I just want to marry him. Instantly, Li Mo, who had been standing silently by the side, spoke up. May I ask the reason? For some reason, Li Mo felt a sense of familiarity when he faced Luo Qingshun. Therefore, when she said that she wanted to marry Xuangzi, his heart was covered with a layer of gloom. It had nothing to do with whether Xuangzi was a fool or not. It was her choice. Didn't I just say it? Luo Qingshun's eyebrows moved slightly. It's because he's good-looking. Xuangzi seemed to feel that the other party was talking about him. He slowly turned his eyes and looked at her with a warm smile. Elder sister is beautiful, and I am also beautiful. Elder sister, and I must be a match made in heaven. Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 10%. This can also increase favorability. Hee. Xuanying couldn't help giving a cold laugh as he said, Since Miss Luo has already made your choice, I still have other matters to attend to, so I won't accompany you. As soon as his voice fell, he suddenly stood up and picked up the suit hanging on the sofa. He didn't even look back as he walked out the door. Frost Crane's face was very ugly. It seemed like Xuanying's actions had made him lose all face. Although he could understand why his second son was this angry, they were both meat, and Xuanying didn't give him any face at all. Dad, don't be angry. Xuanlan immediately came out to smooth things over. Second son is just a bit stubborn. Perhaps Miss Qingshun's choice has hurt his pride. Chapter 36:27. Frost Crane sighed and looked at Luo Qingshun. Uncle has let you see a joke. Since you've already chosen Xuangzi, pick a date to get married. It'll also give me an explanation to your father. Okay. Luo Qingshun nodded and said, I'll listen to Uncle Xuang's arrangement. Frost Crane didn't think that Luo Qingshun would agree so readily. It was impossible to say that he didn't have any doubts in his heart. However, Luo Qingshun choosing Xuangzi made him feel that she wasn't a snobbish girl. She gave people the impression that she was very simple, but when she was fighting with Xuanying, she didn't fall behind at all. No wonder Luo Banshan left 60% of his inheritance to her. It seemed that she really had the qualifications and the ability to inherit such a huge inheritance. After sending off the Xuang family, Luo Qingshun went to her room to tidy up her things. She promised Frost Crane that she would move to the Xuang family's residence tomorrow morning. First, she could familiarize herself with the environment faster. On a second, she could cultivate feelings with Xuangzi. In fact, what he didn't know was that no matter what kind of person Xuangzi was, cold or arrogant, proud or black-bellied, gentle or elegant, and even if he was a fool, there was no need to cultivate feelings between them because their feelings were very good. After tidying up her things, she passed by Yang Yaji's room and could still hear the sharp cries and howls from inside. Luo Shui and Luo Sha were knocking on the door to bring her food, but Yang Yaji didn't come out. The two of them looked at each other with doubts in their eyes. They didn't really care about Yang Yaji, but they were puzzled. This 30-something-year-old stepmother status in the family had always been very high. In fact, they didn't like her very much, but her methods were very clever. She always planned what she wanted very precisely and properly, and no one had a chance to disturb her plans. After all, they more or less had something on her, so they never dared to disobey or resist her. Just yesterday, she also sent a message in the discussion group of the three of them. You bunch of useless trash. In the end, do I still have to deal with her myself? You'd better be obedient in the future. Otherwise, I won't give you a single cent of the 60% of the inheritance. Open your eyes and watch carefully. This is how I dealt with her this time. Little did he know that less than 4 hours after Yang Yaji posted this sentence, she rushed home as if she had been greatly frightened. Then, from time to time, he would wail like ghosts and howl like wolves in his room. Such a voice made Luo Shui and Luo Sha's hair stand on end. Therefore, they had huge doubts in their hearts. Yang Yaji was such a meticulous person. What could have scared her to this extent? She must have asked Luo Qingxun out that night. What happened to make her like this? Qingxun. Luo Shui and Luo Sha called out her name when they saw her walking towards them. Luo Qingxun raised her eyebrows slightly and glanced at them. A cold light flashed in her eyes as she said, "What's the matter?" Luo Shui and Luo Sha looked at each other again. Luo Shui then showed an embarrassed smile and said, "It's nothing. I just heard the housekeeper Li San say that you're moving to the Shuang family tomorrow, right?" Silence, silence, silence. Complete silence. After a while, Luo Qingxun narrowed her eyes slightly and snorted coldly. "What does it have to do with you?" Chapter 36:28. Why did she have to answer the questions of these people who conspired to send her to the morgue? Moreover, she really hated these people who couldn't wait for the other party to die, but still had to force a smile on their faces. Rosa wanted to respond, but she stopped when she heard Yang Yaji's wails from the room. Yang Yaji was such a powerful person, but she seemed to have fallen into her hands, let alone them. Luo Qingxun sneered and didn't say anything else. She directly walked forward. Luo Shui and Luo Sha, who were still standing there, were so angry that they were about to stomp their feet. However, they only dared to complain when Luo Qingxun disappeared at the end of the corridor. Why is this person so arrogant? An illegitimate daughter is an illegitimate daughter. Doesn't she know that she doesn't have a legitimate status? That's right. I'm so angry. Luo Sha continued. I really wanted to scold her just now, but then I thought about how Yang Yaji became crazy for some reason. I was a little scared, so I didn't scold her back. Me too. Me too. Luo Shui angrily put her hands on her hips and said, This Luo Qingxun, just you wait. Now that Yang Yaji can't take it anymore, I'll think of a way to deal with her. Ah, sister, are you really going to deal with her? Nonsense. Luo Shui's eyes widened and said, That's 60% of the inheritance. How can we let an illegitimate daughter take advantage of it? Sister, you're right. If you need my help, just call me. Some people like to gossip behind people's backs, but when they were face to face, they didn't dare to say a word. Luo Shui and Luo Sha were classic examples of this kind of people. Luo Qingxun stood on the rooftop of the garden. The night breeze gently brushed against her cheeks. The wind tonight was especially comfortable. Heavy footsteps sounded in her ears. Luo Qingxun looked out of the corner of her eyes. It was Luo Jin. He was holding 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He looked at her and said, I just made it. Do you want to have a cup? There was a rich coffee scent in the air. Luo Qingxun curled her lips into a smile and said with a nod, All right. There was a place to sit on the rooftop of the villa's garden. Luo Qingxun took a sip of coffee and said, Well, not bad. Aren't you afraid that I'll poison you? Luo Jin leaned back in her chair and squinted her eyes. There was a lazy smile on her lips. He had never believed in the so-called love at first sight, but now he was very sure that whether it was love at first sight or not, he really wanted to get close to her. In the next second, Luo Qingxun rested her chin on her left hand and habitually tapped the table with her right hand. Do you think you can kill me? I walked out of the morgue. Luo Jin stared deeply at her. After a long while, a faint chill flashed across her pitch-black eyes. Why did you choose him? These simple words didn't have any preamble or follow-up, but Luo Qingxun could understand them. It was always easier for 2 smart people to talk than other people. This was because they didn't need to use too many words to make the other person understand them. I've already answered this question many times today. Luo Qingxun took another sip of coffee and said, Because he's good-looking. Do you think the answer will be perfunctory to Frost Crane or the Shuang brothers? Luo Jin's brows slightly moved as he said, Or perfunctory to me. All right. Luo Qingxun put down her cup and revealed a faint smile. I chose him because I came to this world to meet him. Chapter 36:29. She wasn't lying. At least her words were all true. Not a single word was false. Luo Jin looked at her and felt an inexplicable sense of desolation in her heart. After that, Luo Jin narrowed his eyes as he looked at her and asked, "How credible do you think your answer is compared to the last one? Is it important how credible it is?" Luo Qingqian's lips curled as she said, "The important thing is whether you believe it or not." "I believe it." He seriously looked at her and said in a soft voice, "I believe this reason more, but I hope it's the last one." After a while, the two fell into silence. When it began to drizzle, Luo Qingqian drank the coffee in front of her and said, "It's a pity that I'll have to disappoint you. The reason you believe is the truth." As soon as her voice fell, Luo Qingqian slowly stood up and said, "Thank you for the coffee. Good night." Although she didn't know why Luo Jin was interested in her, with her thousands of years of experience, Luo Jin shouldn't be a bad person. The next morning, the Shuang family sent a driver to pick her up early. When the door of the limited edition Rolls-Royce opened, a young man with a bright smile came out. "Big sister really looks good today. Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 20%. Pure people were that pure when it came to giving affection." Luo Qingqian looked at his face, and her lips couldn't help curling into a smile. "Young Miss Luo, today is Madame Tsaiwei's birthday. Do you need me to take you to change your clothes later?" Luo Qingqian was playing with Shuangxi as she casually said, "It's her birthday today, so there should be a lot of guests." "Yes," the driver replied. "Most of the people in this circle are here." Luo Qingqian said with a nod. "I know. Go and change your clothes." "Change clothes, change clothes." Shuangxi took her hand and said, "Big sister will definitely look good in a dress. You're a beautiful big sister." Luo Qingqian heard this and playfully said, "Really? Then do you call everyone beautiful big sister?" "Of course not." Shuangxi snorted proudly and said sincerely, "Only Qingqian is the beautiful sister. Everyone else is ugly." "That's more like it." Luo Qingqian smiled and said, "Let's go to the store where Shuangxi's gown is sold. You can pick a couple outfit." Couple outfits?" Shuangxi was stunned at first, then she clapped happily. "Wow, can I wear matching outfits with my sister? Then isn't elder sister my wife?" "Yes." Luo Qingqian tilted her head and leaned on his shoulder. "I am your wife." Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 30%. Skipping the word fiancé and becoming daughter-in-law felt pretty good. In fact, whenever she saw him here, she would always think of the time when he was covered in blood and clenched his teeth to protect her. He was calm and decisive. But now that she saw how happy he was, she couldn't help thinking that if she didn't appear in his life, perhaps he would be incomparably happy for the rest of his life. He didn't need to live for her. He didn't need to die for her. "Young miss, we're here." The driver stopped the car and said, "Third young master bought his clothes from this store." After that, she looked at Shuangxi on the side and said, "Let's go buy clothes, all right?" "All right." Shuangxi nodded. She took her hand and got out of the car with her. Chapter 3630. AQ was a very famous store for aristocrats. All the clothes sold there started at 6 figures. Logically speaking, these clothes weren't worth that price. But rich people's clothing was a matter of taste. To a certain extent, price was the basis of taste. Big sister, I think you'll look really good in this." Shuangxi seemed very excited. After entering the store, she jumped up and down like a child. The expressions of the attendants standing to the side were very strange. They really wanted to laugh, but they knew the other party's status and didn't dare to laugh out loud. Even so, Luo Qingqian didn't like this kind of smile. "Really?" Luo Qingqian glanced at it and said, "Then let's try it on." Okay. In the next second, Luo Qingqian said in a cold voice, "I'll take this one. I'll try it on. Let me try this one on." Before she could finish speaking, a pair of white hands snatched the light blue dress in front of her. Luo Qingqian narrowed her eyes. She turned to look at the source of the voice and saw a familiar face. Bai Xiaoqing. This face was exactly the same as it was 1,000 years ago. For her sake, Li Mo had hurt the original owner of this body. But now, it seemed that this woman wasn't all that great. She had a face covered in heavy makeup, peach blossom eyes, cherry lips, and a high, slightly deformed nose. Of course, what she disliked the most was Bai Xiaoqing's fake eyelashes. She looked like she wanted to be a Barbie doll, but failed miserably. In that instant, Luo Qingshun didn't reach out to grab the dress, but Shuangzi did. "You're not allowed to take my wife's things." Shuangzi tightly grabbed the hem of the dress, refusing to let go. "Oh, isn't this the third young master of the Shuang family?" Bai Xiaoqing didn't let go of the dress. Instead, he glanced at Luo Qingshun and said, "Why are you calling her your wife when we're not even engaged yet? It seems that the fool isn't stupid after all." Actually, Bai Xiaoqing had already recognized Luo Qingshun the moment she walked through the door. This illegitimate daughter of the Luo family who had suddenly appeared had nothing to do with Bai Xiaoqing, but the marriage between the Luo family and the Shuang family had a lot to do with her. Bai Xiaoqing was Shuanglan's girlfriend. She was a true girlfriend, not a rumored girlfriend. As for the Shuang group, Bai Xiaoqing believed among Frost Crane's 3 sons, Shuanglan was definitely more qualified to inherit the family business. But what she didn't expect was that Luo Qingshun would suddenly appear out of nowhere. The illegitimate daughter of the Luo family chose the 3 brothers of the Shuang family, and there was a rumor in the Shuang family that Frost Crane would let the person chosen by Luo Qingshun become the successor of the Shuang group. Although there was no evidence to prove that Frost Crane had really said that, there was no such thing as a groundless rumor in this world. Therefore, if Luo Qingshun chose Shuanglan, wouldn't her years of effort to get close to Shuanglan go to waste? If she had to choose Shuanglan, she might as well choose Lian Mo, who had always cared for her. But fortunately, Luo Qingshun didn't choose that. She went against everyone's expectations and chose the fool. But even so, she still hated this person. If Shuanglan couldn't become the successor of the Shuang family, all her years of effort would be in vain. Now that they had coincidentally met, it could be considered as a place to vent her anger. "What? You're just a small upstart, yet you're here to act like an aristocrat?" Luo Qingshun's cold eyes narrowed as her lips curved into a sneer. "You definitely didn't come alone." Chapter 36-31. As expected, Bai Xiaoqing was stunned for a moment, and her expression darkened. She had investigated Bai Xiaoqing long ago. Originally, the Bai family was not considered a noble family, but because of a successful stone gambling, they suddenly became nouveau riche. However, nouveau riches were always temporary. They did not have stable real estate, and if they did not manage their finances properly, their money would only decrease. However, Bai Xiaoqing, who had suddenly become a rich lady, did not want to manage her finances at all. She wanted to squander her money, squandering money to satisfy her vanity. But she would soon realize that the sudden burst of money from the Bai family was not enough for her to squander. Therefore, she had a plan for herself as soon as possible. At another ball, she met the young master of the Shuang family, Shuanglan. However, although many people in the Shuang family knew about her relationship with Shuanglan, Shuanglan was unwilling to officially announce their relationship. Bai Xiaoqing felt that there must be something fishy about this. Later, she found out that it was because the illegitimate daughter of the Luo family was going to marry the Shuang family. To Bai Xiaoqing, the meat that was about to be in her mouth suddenly flew away. Naturally, she was unwilling to accept it. "What does it have to do with you whether or not I came alone?" Bai Xiaoqing bit her lip and said, "For this matter, I'll take the gown first. Your family's fool is wearing a white suit. Why don't you go find a white evening gown? Why are you snatching the blue one?" Bai Xiaoqing was aggressive. Every word and every tone seemed to be humiliating Shuangzi. "You old witch, don't be fierce to my wife." Shuangzi was 8 meters tall, a head taller than Bai Xiaoqing. Naturally, she was much stronger than Bai Xiaoqing when it came to snatching the gown. In just a few seconds, most of the blue evening gown had been pulled to Shuangzi's side. Bai Xiaoqing stomped her feet in exasperation and said angrily, "You fool, let go of me." In the next second, Luo Qingshun's cold eyes narrowed. She looked at Bai Xiaoqing and said, "Bai Xiaoqing, try calling her a fool again if you dare." 100 years after another, 1,000 years after another. He was always the one protecting her, and this time, he was the weaker party. She couldn't let this kind of person continue to humiliate him. Why should her family's youth be bullied by others? What did I call him a fool? The fury in by Xiaoqing's heart had also reached his throat. He walked up to Xuanxi and pushed her away forcefully as he said, "He's an idiot. Let him fall." Bai Xiaoqing's speed of pushing people was very fast, which caught Xuanxi off guard. However, Luo Qingshun could predict her impatient actions. In the blink of an eye, she caught Xuanxi with her left hand and took 2 big steps forward. She raised her right hand and slapped Bai Xiaoqing's face. She didn't even have time to react. She couldn't stabilize her body and staggered back. At the same time, Luo Qingshun snatched the evening gown back from her without hesitation. She narrowed her eyes and said, "Wrap this up for me first. We'll buy it and cut it into pieces to play with." Play, play, play. Xuanxi stood beside Luo Qingshun. She snorted and said with a smile, "I love paper cutting the most." Hiss! In that instant, all the attendants in the store sucked in a breath of cold air. Luo Qingshun was too fast. From the time Bai Xiaoqing made his move to the time Bai Xiaoqing was slapped, the whole process didn't even take 10 seconds. How could the word handsome describe it? Chapter 36-32. You actually hit me? You. What happened? In the next second, a low voice rang out. Liamo had probably parked his car and walked in through the door. In an instant, Bai Xiaoqing's tone, which had originally wanted to curse out loud, softened instantly. Her eyes instantly turned red, and she ran to Liamo's side with tears and snot running down her face. "Brother Liamo, she actually hit me." Liamo glanced at the bright red handprint on the left side of Bai Xiaoqing's face and frowned slightly. He looked at Luo Qingshun and asked, "Miss Luo, what happened?" She didn't know why, but whether it was when Bai Xiaoqing wanted to bully her or when she wanted to bully Xuanxi, her heart was always calm. But at this very moment, when Liamo stood in front of her and questioned her in a reproachful tone, it was as if there was a raging fire burning in her heart. The scenes from 1,000 years ago flooded her mind at this moment, and her originally cold eyes were covered with a layer of killing intent. Liamo looked at her eyes, and his brows furrowed even tighter. He didn't know why he had such a strange feeling in the depths of his heart. It was as if every time he saw Luo Qingshun, he would feel exceptionally guilty. He couldn't explain it, but he also couldn't explain it. What he could be sure of was that they had never met before. He also didn't know why he had such a feeling. But now, even when he was questioning her, he felt an inexplicable sense of guilt in his heart. Look, I didn't wrongly accuse her." Bai Xiaoqing cried. "She really hit me. Everyone here can attest to that. Don't tell me I'll slap myself." Humph. Instantly, Luo Qingshun snorted and looked at the surveillance camera in the upper left corner. "What happened? Don't you know how to look at the surveillance camera yourself? Are the words of others more real than what you see with your own eyes?" Liamo was stunned. He could clearly feel Luo Qingshun's hostility towards him. The hostility this time was even more obvious than the first time they met. He didn't know why, but he knew that he didn't like this feeling. "You?" Bai Xiaoqing's flushed face suddenly turned pale. She wanted to take the opportunity to talk nonsense, but she didn't expect that there would be surveillance cameras. "Obviously, he bullied my wife first, and he's still crying there." Xuanxi snorted proudly. "Shameless." "You." Bai Xiaoqing bit his lip and said, "How did I bully her? Did I hit her? She really did slap me in the face, okay? Even if I slap you, my hand will get dirty." Luo Qingshun held Xuanxi's hand and brushed past Bai Xiaoqing. Then, she looked at the waiter and said, "Help me get the same suit as him and pack it up with this blue suit." Yes, Mississippi. At this moment, Bai Xiaoqing was still standing in the same spot in a daze. This kind of humiliation of being completely crushed really made her heart burn with rage. But this anger had nowhere to vent. She was so angry that she couldn't catch her breath and almost fainted. Luckily, Liamo was beside her and helped her up. Liamo always had a faint mint scent on him, which was one of her favorite things about him. But between Xuanlan and Liamo, she still chose Xuanlan. Although Liamo was also a rich man's son, in her opinion, Xuanlan had a better chance of becoming the successor of the Xuan Corporation. Chapter 36-33. However, Li Mo had always been protective of her. Why did he seem to have changed today? The way he looked at Luo Qingshan was different. Although she couldn't tell what was different, she was certain that she didn't like the way he looked at her. Li Mo, seeing that Luo Qingshan was about to leave, by Xiaoqing anxiously grabbed Li Mo's arm. She's already bullied me. Are you going to let her go just like that? In the past, he had felt that Bai Xiaoqing was especially familiar to him, as if they had known each other for a long time. However, after Luo Qingshan appeared, he seemed to have completely shifted this feeling to her. Now that Bai Xiaoqing was speaking to him in such a delicate manner, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. Don't tell me you want me to check the surveillance footage to see what exactly happened? His voice was very cold, and his left hand took her wrist away from his right arm. He headed in Luo Qingshan's direction. Li Mo. Before Bai Xiaoqing could finish, Li Mo was already standing by the counter. He took out a black card and handed it to the attendant. Use my card. No need. Xuanxi stood in front of Luo Qingshan almost immediately. After rummaging through his pocket for a long time, he took out a card. I'll buy my daughter-in-law's things myself. His voice was filled with hostility, making Luo Qingshan feel an inexplicable warmth. Xuanxi, like this, seemed to be the only one who had shown her his true heart. She could see through him with just one glance. Li Mo seemed a little embarrassed. Xuanxi, be good. I just felt that my question to Miss Luo was too disrespectful. After all, she's an important guest of the Shuang family. Luo Qingshan heard this and looked up. Since you also said that I'm an important guest of the Shuang family, shouldn't it be more polite for the Shuang family to pay? Yes. What elder sister said is true. But, miss, here are your clothes. Li Mo wanted to say more, but the waiter had already packed the clothes and tactfully took Xuanxi's card. Although the waiter didn't know much about the complicated relationships in the circle of rich and powerful people, they should know who was more suitable to take the card since Xuanxi called Luo Qingshan her daughter-in-law. After swiping the card, Luo Qingshan took the clothes with one hand and held Xuanxi's hand with the other. Let's go to the ball. All right. Bai Xiaoqing was furious, but he could only watch as Luo Qingshan left his sight. She swore to herself that she would pay back today's humiliation tenfold. When Luo Qingshan and Xuanxi arrived at the Shuang residence, the banquet was about to begin. Today's main character was Madame Shuang, Li Kaiwei, a woman with a devastatingly beautiful face. After hearing that Frost Crane's first wife had died, Frost Crane had been depressed. It wasn't until he met Li Kaiwei at a banquet that he gradually came out of his depression. Li Kaiwei was also the daughter of a rich and powerful family. In terms of family assets, she might not be inferior to the Shuang family. However, in recent years, the Li family's business hadn't been going well. Li Kaiwei hoped that Li Mo could become a director or an internal member of the Shuang Family Corporation. Wait for me in the hall. I'll go change. A glimmer of light flashed in Frost's eyes. She looked at her and said, Can't I go with you? In the next second, Luo Qingshan's face flushed red. Of course not. Chapter 36-34. Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 40%. She was wearing a white evening dress, and her slightly curled hair was tied up in a princess style. She was wearing a diamond-studded crown, looking playful and elegant. Li Caiwei's birthday banquet was very big. Luo Qingshan didn't want to attend, but she had to. After changing her clothes and walking out of the lounge, she saw Xuanxi waiting for her at the door. The lights in the banquet hall were a bit dim, and it shined on his almost perfect face, making him look even more handsome. His eyes were very deep, and there was a faint coldness to them at this moment. Xuanxi. She softly called his name. He was a bit surprised hearing this, but he turned around with a bright smile on his face. Big sister is so beautiful. Xuanxi walked over to her side and gently held her hand. Big sister is the most beautiful girl in the world. If you praise me like this, big sister will be proud. Luo Qingshan revealed a soft smile, her eyes filled with a gentle smile. Xuanxi blurted out without any hesitation, Big sister has the right to be proud. Really? Unreally. When Luo Qingchen and Shuangzi were chatting, Shuanglan's voice came from behind them. "Isn't this Miss Qingchen?" He was holding a glass of red wine as he looked at her with a gentlemanly and elegant smile. Seeing Miss Qingchen and third brother have such a good relationship as the big brother, I'm very happy. Although there was a smile on Shuanglan's lips, there was an obvious coldness in her eyes. She had changed a lot since the first time they met. Or it should be said that when they first met, Shuanglan hid herself very well. Then I'll have to thank Big Brother Shuang. Luo Qingchen revealed a business smile and said, "I passed by AQ on the way here and happened to meet Miss by Xiaoqing." Xiaoqing? Shuanglan's expression changed as she looked at Luo Qingchen with a probing gaze. "Yes." Luo Qingchen's brows twitched slightly as she nodded. "I saw her with Liemo just now." In the next second, Shuanglan's expression changed again. Although Bai Xiaoqing was his secret girlfriend, he would not allow her to get too close to other men. He had heard about the improper relationship between Bai Xiaoqing and Liemo. He just didn't expect that Luo Qingchen, who had just entered the Shuang family, already knew about this matter. As a smart person in the same circle, Luo Qingchen obviously knew about his relationship with Bai Xiaoqing from the way she spoke to him just now, and the relationship between Bai Xiaoqing and Liemo. But no matter what the truth was, he couldn't reveal the slightest bit of panic at this time. Really? The Shuang clan and the Bai clan do have business dealings, so it's normal for Liemo to know Miss Bai. Oh, Luo Qingchen narrowed her eyes. So young Master Shuang doesn't know Bai Xiaoqing? Shuanglan replied without hesitation. "I know, but we're not familiar with each other." "I see. From the way Miss Qingchen spoke, you don't seem to be on good terms with Miss Bai." Luo Qingchen said without hiding anything. "Not only are we not on good terms, we have a history." Shuanglan's expression changed slightly. She immediately added, "I heard that the Bai clan is just a nouveau riche. Of course they're different from people of our status." Luo Qingchen chuckled and didn't say anything else. Instead, she held Shuangzi's hand and walked towards the center of the banquet. Chapter 36-35. Not long after she sat down, Li Kaiwei came over. She looked very young, as if the years hadn't left many traces on her face. "Welcome, Miss Luo, to my birthday banquet." Li Kaiwei raised her glass and said, "Master is very concerned about you and the Shuang family." Luo Qingchen didn't have much contact with Li Kaiwei, so it wasn't a good or bad thing. But since the elder had come to propose a toast, as a junior, she should get up and return the greeting. "I know." Luo Qingchen looked at Shuangzi and said, "I also quickly made my choice. Don't you think so, Madame Shuang?" "Yes." Li Kaiwei gently shook the glass of red wine in her hand and said, "But are you sure you made the right choice?" Shuangzi, who had been eating, was stunned when he heard this, but he didn't look up and continued eating. Luo Qingchen nodded without any hesitation and said, "I'm very sure." Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 50%. Actually, Liemo is a good child if... Doesn't young Master Liemo already have a girlfriend? Before Li Kaiwei could finish, Luo Qingchen cut her off and said, "I saw him with Bai Xiaoqing at AQ just now." Li Kaiwei's face changed in an instant. 3 seconds later, she revealed an awkward smile and said, "It's like this. I didn't know." "I'm not sure either." Luo Qingchen deliberately shrugged and said with a smile, "Maybe they're just good friends." Li Kaiwei heard this and gave a slight nod before walking off in another direction. There was a sudden feeling of ice and fire in her heart. The Li family put so much effort into cultivating Liemo so that he would have a good future. How could his nephew? How could he fall for Bai Xiaoqing? Just as Li Kaiwei was about to ask Liemo about it, the host on the stage began to speak. "Welcome everyone to Madame Shuang's birthday banquet. Let's all raise our glasses to wish Madame Shuang a happy birthday." The next second, everyone said, "Happy birthday." In addition, our chairman of the Shuang group, Mr. Frost Crane, also has an important announcement to make. The host smiled and said, "Let's use the warmest applause to welcome Chairman Shuang to the stage." Pa 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 ahem. Frost Crane stepped on a stage, picked up the microphone, and said, "First of all,
I would like to wish my beautiful wife a happy birthday. I'm very happy to be with her. In addition, I want to announce something more important. Frost Crane paused and said, I've decided to make Shuangzi the successor of Frost Enterprise. Hiss! At this moment, everyone in the banquet hall sucked in a breath of cold air. This kind of explosive news was already a surprise to the onlookers. As for the other members of the Shuang family, it was simply a shock. After all, the only person who should be surprised was still eating without a care in the world. Perhaps this isn't the best choice for such a huge corporation like the Shuang Group. Frost Crane explained, but this way I'll be able to answer to my best friend. As soon as his voice fell, Frost Crane looked at Luo Qingshun, who was eating, and said, Qingshun, please come up with Shuangzi for everyone to see. Luo Qingshun was very calm. There was no surprise or joy on her face. After all, she didn't choose Shuangzi because he was a member of the Shuang family. Moreover, if it wasn't for her, Shuangzi probably wouldn't have become the successor of the Shuang family. Chapter 36:36. Ugh! Bang! Before Luo Qingshun could hold on to Shuangzi's hand, his face darkened as he grabbed onto his neck and fell off the chair. Cries of alarm came from all around. Luo Qingshun immediately crouched down to check his pulse, muttering, There's poison in the cake. What's wrong? Did something happen? Liamo rushed to her side and asked with concern, I'll call 120 right now. Luo Qingshun's brows furrowed as she picked up a bottle of water and poured it into Shuangzi's mouth. His face was flushed red, and his breathing was ragged. His eyes were closed, and he looked like he was in pain. Someone actually dared to poison her right under her nose. They really didn't put her, someone who had lived for thousands of years, in their eyes. Affiliated one hospital. An hour later, the doctor finally came out of the emergency room. He wiped off his sweat and said, the amount of poison young Master Shuang had was enough to kill him. Fortunately, we managed to save his life. Doctor, when will my brother wake up? Shuanglan's eyes were filled with worry as she asked the doctor. If nothing goes wrong, he should wake up tomorrow. The doctor said, however, people who are poisoned too deeply will be mentally affected. Everyone should be mentally prepared. Luo Qingshun could clearly feel the disappointment in Shuangzi's eyes when the doctor said that Shuanglan would wake up tomorrow. Although it was only for a second, it didn't escape her eyes. Ha ha ha! Shuangying laughed coldly and snorted. Does it matter if my brain is affected? You're our family's private doctor. You should know that my third brother is an idiot. Littling, watch your words. Frost Crane scolded in front of everyone. If you talk about your brother like that again, you'll have to bear the consequences. Shuangying clearly wasn't convinced. She gritted her teeth and said, Dad, you can't be this biased. It's not like we don't know what Shuangzi is capable of. You can't let him be the Shuang family successor, just because Luo Qingshun chose him. Slap! A resounding slap landed on Shuangying's face. Frost Crane had personally slapped the so-called genius of the Shuang family in front of everyone. Shuanglan stood up in the next second. Dad, don't be angry. Littling didn't mean that. He just worried about third brother being poisoned. It's just that announcing the heir this time is a bit too hasty. Shuanglan was very smart. She could do a good job as a middleman every time. She used a persuasion while expressing her opinion. No, I don't care whether Shuangzi is dead or alive. Shuangying glanced at Shuanglan with contempt and said, I never care about people who aren't on the same level as me. He turned around and walked toward the hospital door without hesitation. He didn't look back even after taking a step. Geniuses were always like this. They didn't want to be compared with others, but they couldn't lose to a fool. What an unfilial son. Frost Crane said with a red face, Little Lon, you go deal with the company's affairs first. I'll stay here and look after your brother. Okay, Dad. Shuanglan gently patted Frost Crane's shoulder and said, Don't worry, Dad. Little C.I. has been lucky since he was a child. He'll be fine. Okay. In an instant, Frost Crane's eyes glowed with a dark light and said, I must find out why little C.I. was poisoned. Who dared to poison my Shuang family's banquet?